American comics, starting with Superman. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story and all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 1, Friendship System. In a small-town high school in Kansas, the United States, Lee sat alone in the stands. Though his eyes were fixed on the teenagers playing football on the green field below, his mind was already wandering. Hey, even though it's been 16 years, I still can't get used to it. How did I travel through time? I swear I didn't do anything. I didn't get into a car accident, my computer exploded, or get struck by lightning and drowned. I was just sleeping peacefully, and I traveled through time. Indeed, Lee was a pure Chinese, an extremely ordinary person with his own family, his own friends, and his own secret crush. And then, without warning, he traveled through time, like a long dream. When he opened his eyes, he found himself transformed into a few-month-old baby. And so he spent his first 16 years. The advantage of growing up as a child is that you can communicate seamlessly with those around you, and you don't have to worry about noticing others about your time travel. Lee, or should we call him Lee Rogers, his parents disappeared 10 years ago. He vaguely remembers a meteor shower that nearly destroyed the town. Then, Lee's uncle, the local police chief, James Rogers, told him that his parents had gone far away. As the meteor shower descended, young Lee couldn't help but recall his past life's homeroom teacher's words, "Evil capitalism is always in dire straits." Afterward, Lee was adopted by his uncle and took his maiden name. However, for Lee, a true Chinese, as long as his name remained Lee, he would be named Lee for life. Ring, 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 a long series of bells interrupted Lee's thoughts. The teenagers playing football on the field began to rest after the bell rang. Just then, Whitney, the high school football team's quarterback, brought out a large case of soda and said to the players, "Hey, guys, come over here. Lee's buying us all some drinks." "Thanks, Lee." The players and cheerleaders rushed over, quickly clearing the case. Whitney grabbed 2 bottles and walked towards Lee in the stands. "Thanks for the soda, bro. I see you're in good shape. Want to play football with us?" Quarterback Whitney was only 18, but American teenagers generally mature early. Standing in front of Lee, at nearly 5 feet 5 inches tall, he seemed to block out half the sunlight. Lee had a decent physique. His father was Chinese and his mother was American, and he inherited the best qualities of both, making him quite handsome. He took the soda, smiled at Whitney, and said, "Why are you talking like my uncle? He keeps nagging me about how he was a star pitcher at the small-town high school. It makes me sick." Whitney patted Lee on the shoulder. "If you come play, you'll experience the charm of American football. At least you'll be able to pick up a lot of girls. Okay, enough talk. I'm taking those guys to training." Before he finished speaking, an electronic chime echoed in Lee's mind. Ding! Friendship level increased to friendly. Unlocking Whitney's character card, Lee was familiar with the voice. In fact, it was a system that had bound him to it when he first crossed over. Friendship system, maybe that's what it was called. Basically, friendship levels were divided into 6 levels: hate, normal, friendly, trusted, respected, and lifelong friendship. Whenever Lee reaches a friendly relationship with someone, he gains a character card that shares some of their abilities. Lee once sought out the most powerful person he could find, the mayor of his town. After painstakingly cultivating a good relationship with him, the card he unlocked allowed him to have an affair without his wife's knowledge. Lee was practically furious. Couldn't they please consider the feelings of single people? He doesn't even have a girlfriend, and yet he's still having an affair? I'll bet you're cheating. This system is truly. Let's take a look at Whitney's card abilities. You're a school star, after all. Don't try to trick me again. Lee closed his eyes and activated the friendship system with his mind. Rows of cards, resembling an illustrated guide, appeared before him. The top row, unlocked, consisted of white cards, including Whitney's. White card, Whitney. Race, human. Primary card effect, basic charm attribute, dating specialization. Notes, mortal build, not much room for growth. Holy crap, these stats are pretty good. Much better than some cheating specialty. A friendship I could buy with a case of soda is pretty good, Leah consoled herself mentally. Like most game stats, Leah's cards were tiered. Needless to say, the weakest were the common white cards, while the slightly better ones were the rare blue cards. Above the blue cards were the heroic purple cards, the legendary gold cards, and the epic orange cards. Equip into the main card slot. The card's character interface of the friendship system allowed one main card and several secondary to be. Generally speaking, a person is equipped card's full abilities only became active when equipped in the main slot, while only a small portion of its additional stats were activated when equipped in the secondary slots. The effects of the card slots were determined by the friendship value. For example, if Leah and Whitney had a friendly friendship, the main card would utilize 40% of Whitney's card's effects. If their friendship value were upgraded to trusted, the effects would increase to 55%. On the character screen, the white Whitney card was equipped in the main card slot. In that instant, Leah seemed to have acquired a certain aura, his overall charm heightened significantly. After his moment of enlightenment, Leah suddenly felt a heartache so severe it could barely breathe, but he suppressed his sorrow, trying to put on an expression that said, "I'm strong, I can't cry." Just then, several cheerleaders passed by Leah. They instinctively noticed Leah sitting alone in the stands. One of them suddenly trembled and exclaimed excitedly, "Wow, that guy is so handsome. He looks so melancholy when he's so handsome." Leah looked in the direction of the voices. They were blonde girls, but they were American high school students, you know. "Oh my god, this card is so powerful." Leah thought it was incredible, but his expression remained, "I have a story, but I'm just not telling it." At that moment, another Asian girl approached. Gleaming like a pair of crescent moons, captivating the heart. Leah knew this Asian girl. She was Lana Lan, the beauty from the class next door. Leah had once flirted with her, but the scene back then was like a car accident. It was horrific. "Hi, Leah, I need a favor." Lana had actually approached Leah today. With Lana around, the blonde girl suddenly paled in comparison. Leah turned slightly, offering a smile he considered gentlemanly yet tinged with melancholy. "Lana, how can I help you?" "Well, a lot of our players are graduating this year, so the coach wants us to bring in some promising newcomers. There's one guy who fits the bill perfectly, but he doesn't seem to like football. You're the most popular, so I'd like you to come with me and convince him to come to training," Lana said with an expectant look in her eyes. Leah still had a smile on her face. "No problem, Lana." "I wonder which lucky guy is worthy of your personal lobbying." "Clark Kent," Lana said. "A name. A new author in a new book, still in its infancy. I beg all the American comics fans to add this to their favorites and give it a recommendation. Both favorites and recommendations are very important, so please support me." Chapter 2, Clark Kent. Hearing that name, Leah was stunned. "Who?" "Say it again." Lana seemed startled by Leah's reaction. She softened her voice and repeated doubtfully, "Clark Kent, the kid from Kent Farm. His father is Jonathan Kent. He used to play quarterback at a small-town high school, Kent Farm. Clark Kent, the meteor shower 10 years ago. Although many years had passed, and he had grown from a baby to the present in this world, many of his memories of his past life had long since faded. But he still remembered some things, like his fandom for American comics. And for example, Clark Kent, that's Superman." At this thought, Leah had a bold thought, "Oh my god. Oh my god. Have I traveled to the DC universe? Small town. Smallville, isn't this where Superman used to live?" It's no wonder Leah hadn't noticed. First of all, Smallville is simply translated as Smallville in Chinese. Who would have thought that this nameless town without a proper name was actually Superman's hometown? Secondly, it goes without saying that if Superman flew over him wearing his red underwear outside in a cape, any time traveler would recognize him. Look at that flying thing in the sky. Is that a bird? Or a plane? Oh no, it's Superman. Krypton, and would eventually grow up to be a great superhero. Seeing Leah's dismal expression, Lana asked with concern, "Leah, are you okay? Why did your face change when you heard Clark's name?" "Oh, it's nothing. I just suddenly remembered that my mom's name is Martha," Leah quickly recovered and said. Lana's face was filled with question marks. "I never mentioned his mom, okay?" "Oh, naturally wouldn't tell sorry." Leah naturally wouldn't tell sorry Lana that he was just playing a joke. In Batman v Superman, It was the line "My mom's name is Martha too" that reconciled the two muscular men. He waved his hand and said, "Don't worry about the details. Let's go. Take me to him." Seeing Leah's agreement, Lana put aside her doubts and took Leah back to the teaching building. The two of them walked to second grade class A. There was only one person in the classroom. Leah looked over and saw a boy who looked only 16 years old. The boy had black hair and was not yet fully grown, but he was exceptionally sturdy. He seemed to have known someone was coming. He turned around and saw Leah and Lana. "Hi, Clark," Lana greeted. Clark's fair complexion paled as Lana approached. "Hi, Lana." Clark adored Lana, but he couldn't understand why. Whenever he was near her, he felt a wave of weakness. So, most of the time, Clark could only watch her from afar, necklace around Lana's neck. The gemstone glowed faintly green when it approached Clark. "Kryptonite. Why do you always look uncomfortable when you see me?" Lana pouted. That's why she asked Leah to come with her, so she crafted a necklace out of the catastrophic kryptonite as a memorial for her parents. It was this unintentional act that caused poor Superboy to become weakened every time she approached Clark. "Lana, let me talk to him." Lee suddenly pulled Lana back and positioned herself in front of Clark. The kryptonite's glow dimmed, and Clark's expression softened considerably. "Hello, Clark, my name is Lee Rogers." Lee mentally added, "Hello, Kal-El." "Hello, I'm Clark Kent." This was Lee's first conversation with the future Superman. As far as Lee could remember, Superman had also loved American football as a child. This was due to the local culture. The most popular players in school weren't the top students, but the star players. Almost every generation in this small town was proud to join the football team. It was almost a tradition. Raised in this culture, the young Superman naturally loved the sport. However, Clark was no ordinary person. He possessed extraordinary strength. At the age of 6, he could lift a car and was invulnerable to weapons. He had to carefully conceal himself, avoid detection, and it was impossible for him to participate in such a dangerous sport. Of course, the danger wasn't just for him, but for his teammates. So, as a teenager, Clark Kent was lonely and lost. He didn't know who he was, where he came from, and he had no direction to move forward. Even if he had 1,000 worries, who could he share them with? Where's the crown must bear its weight. The journey of a superhero is never smooth sailing. What people don't see are the twists and turns along the way. Well, the old football team members are about to graduate, so we need some new players. We'd like to invite you to join, Leah said, trying to suppress his excitement. Clark shook his head. "Sorry, my father won't let me join the football team." Kent's father had his concerns. On the one hand, he didn't want Superboy to expose his powers, and on the other hand, he was concerned for others. American football is all about physical confrontation. If someone challenged Superboy, it would be like ramming into a steel plate without thinking, potentially breaking bones. But Leah wasn't willing to give up. After all, this was a good start, a good beginning for his relationship with Clark. Superman. This is Superman. What does it mean to be brothers with Superman? If anyone dares to bully me, have they asked my brother Superman? And Leah has a friendship system. Once his friendship with Superboy reaches friendly, he can unlock a Superboy character card. Even though Clark hasn't fully matured into Superman yet, even if he were Superboy, he'd at least have a purple hero level card, right? Thinking of this, Leah cleared his throat and continued, "Hey, Clark, I'm not asking your father for permission to participate. I know you want to say you have special circumstances, but listen. I just want to ask you, what kind of person do you want to be? I want you to listen to your heart and tell me what you truly love." Clark was completely stunned by these words. His adoptive father was a righteous and strict man. Father Ken had set many rules for him. Although these rules were for Superboy's own good, Superboy, in his rebellious teenage years, wanted to rebel, but couldn't. "I want to fit in, but I can't." Superboy turned his head, his eyes filled with disappointment. He also knew that he accidentally might hurt others. Leah placed her hand on Clark's shoulder. "The feel, my God, your shoulder muscles are filled with lead. Ahem. Clark, you should give yourself a chance, and give everyone else a chance to get to know you. If you're brave enough to give it a try, you'll find that things aren't as difficult as you think," Leah said. "When I talk about inspirational advice, even I'm afraid, it must be said that the inspirational advice I read online in my past life was quite effective." Superman's body trembled slightly after hearing this. and his eyes gradually became filled with anticipation. He looked at Leah and Lana and asked, "Can I really do this?" Leah gave him a resolute look. "I'll go to training with you at 2 p.m. Give it a try. After today's training, you can decide whether to join or not." With a nod from Superman, Leah and Superman were connected this afternoon, "but I need to go home and talk to my father first." "Don't worry. I'll convince him." Clark himself didn't quite have the confidence to say the last part, but no matter what, Leah still had an excuse to keep in touch with Clark. At least it wouldn't seem too forced. Clark grabbed a few books, said goodbye to the two, and prepared to leave. Leah's consciousness then entered the friendship system, and sure enough, a previously unseen illustration appeared in the front row. It belongs to Clark Kent's character illustration. Currently, it showed a friendship value of 50% of normal. Once it surpassed friendly status, this illustration would become an exclusive card, and judging by the color of the illustration, purple. This would be a purple hero card. After Clark left, Lana stared at Leah with her beautiful eyes. "That's great, Leah. I didn't expect you to convince Clark. At least I didn't have high hopes. It's all because of my high personal charisma." Leah sat up straight, and Whitney's charm instantly radiated, making Lana laugh. "You're such a narcissist. So, tell me, how should I reward you?" A very important PS, I think it's best to clarify that this book takes Clark Kent, who hasn't yet become Superman, as its starting point. But don't worry about the pacing being slow, that's impossible. Also, the most striking aspect of this book about parallel universes, in my opinion, is that Wonder Woman is still on Themyscira Island in this book, and Steve Trevor didn't bring Diana out in the movie. The protagonist does bring her out, so I'm going to warn you guys, so please be gentle with your criticism. Chapter 3, Brother, You Can Do It. Sitting on the legs is killing. Maybe others don't know, but as a DC fan, Leah knows very well that Superman had a crush on a girl named Lana Land during adolescence. Leah was once very surprised that this girl had the same name as Lana Land. Who would have thought that it was not just the same name, but the same person? I'm going to die. If Superman forgets to bring back a book at this time and sees this scene, 80% of the friendship points I have worked so hard to accumulate will be wiped out in an instant. Leah mustered up his courage and was about to push Lana away, who was sitting on him, but the beauty on his body leaned down slightly, pressed her vermilion lips on his cheek, and then spoke sweetly, leaving Leah with a confused look on her face. "Wow, are all the girls in you American Empire so playful? What are you thinking? Didn't I hear Lana ask me to help her with her homework?" Leah said innocently, "It's just some tittering. I won't get pregnant. Besides, Superman's official partner is Lois Lane, and Superman and Lana haven't been together in the canon, so this isn't a random couple." He suddenly thought that Whitney's character card had the perfect girl killer attributes, so awesome. He got home at noon, but no one was home. After all, Leah's uncle was the sheriff and had a very busy job, and his aunt had left him long ago, rumored to have gone to Metropolis. Leah grabbed some potatoes and steak from the refrigerator and fried them up to make do. With it evening tutoring at Lana's house, afternoon soccer practice seemed less important. As long as Clark had fun, it was all about dressing formally for an evening at Lana's. Flowers, small gifts, and desserts, everything was essential. Perhaps the Whitney character card was still working. Leah had finally gotten the hang of it. To please a girl, the main thing was buying her gifts. Just a small gift, a small surprise, the romantic ritual created can instantly break down a person's defenses, allowing them to do whatever they want. Thinking of this, Leah wanted to slap herself twice. Damn, why had she been so unromantic before? She deserved to be single. During her lunch break, Leah went to the town street and bought everything she needed. Am I going to be contaminated by the corruption of capitalism? Leah felt a little guilty, but thinking that she would be welcoming the new world tonight, she decided to let it be. As the saying, if I don't go to hell, who will? In the afternoon, when Leah appeared at the playground with a case of soda, Clark was already waiting there. Hey, Clark, you're here so early. Leah was surprised to find that over the course of the afternoon, his friendship with Superboy had increased by another 10%, now to 60. Only 40 percentage points remained to reach the next level of friendship. Clark smiled at Leah friendly. I've been here for a while. Did your dad agree so easily? Leah had expected Ken's father to refuse. I had a fight with him, but he finally gave in. I believe I can do well, Clark firmly said. Leah actually understood what he meant. To put it bluntly, Benja will be very careful not to hurt you, weak earthlings. The training camp team members arrived one after another, including some of the cheerleaders who looked like they were crazy. With the charm of Whitney's character card, Leah was now the center of attention. Whitney, the main character, saw Leah and approached to greet her. Leah, are you joining us for the training camp? Not just me, but my friend too. Let me introduce you, Clark Kent. Leah introduced the two, and Whitney gave Clark a friendly smile. I've been wanting to get you in here for a while, Kent. Since you're here with Leah, why don't you be on the same team during training? Clark had no objection. You're so popular at school. Leah felt incredibly proud to have Superboy envious. If you make more friends, you'll be popular too. As the two chatted, the cheerleading squad began rehearsal. Lana stood at the front of the line, holding two bouquets and waving towards Leah and Clark. Leah noticed how soft Clark's gaze towards Lana was. It was hard to imagine Superman, the Man of Steel, ever having such a tender moment. Love is a light so green it makes you panic, Leah said, a phrase she barely understood. Practice soon began. Leah and Clark were assigned to the freshman team, comprised of players who had been training for less than a year. The other team, comprised of Whitney and her seniors, was divided into two groups. Everyone donned their protective gear, and with the coach's whistle, the game began. Unlike traditional soccer, American football isn't played with the feet, it's more about running around with the ball, creating a visually striking experience. This is why it's often called a man's sport. Leah didn't fully understand the rules, but simply followed Clark. As the starter for the freshman team, Clark was the one who essentially ran the ball. However, even during his charge, Clark struggled to control his momentum. When someone bumped into him, he would pause and lean back slightly, appearing as if he'd been pushed back. In reality, even a car driving over, let alone a few high school students, wouldn't be able to knock him down. After breaking through the defense, Clark kicked the ball over the crossbar and between the two goalposts. Almost before the other team could react, he had already scored 3 points. The cheerleaders roared as the goal was scored, the young girls waving their pom-poms and chanting Clark Kent. Clark, in particular, smiled innocently at Lana's chant. Good job, brother. I knew you could do it. Leah appeared at Clark's side, hugging him by the shoulders and shaking him for a long time. But Clark remained motionless, his attention completely untouched. Well, never mind the details. Chapter 4, What is it like to be knocked down by Superman? Just half an hour into the afternoon practice, the freshman team had already scored 12 points, and that was all thanks to Clark's deliberate slacking. Sure enough, playing with Superman, we can win without even trying, Leah sighed inwardly. What made him happiest was that, in just half an hour, his friendship with Clark had increased by another 5%. Meanwhile, the seniors were mortified. They'd come here to teach them how to play soccer, but instead, they'd been overtaken by these freshmen. How could they possibly put their dignity aside? I'll go block Clark and try to get him to the ground. Then we'll play in Formation B, Whitney laid out the tactics. He recognized Clark as the core of the freshmen. As long as they could contain him, they still had a chance of winning. On the next kickoff, Leah passed a ball to Superman and then ran after him, looking like he was only winning thanks to his assist. My God, this guy dares to slide tackle Superman. He's a real warrior. Leah's respect for Whitney grew even more. Clark was already overwhelmed by the consecutive goals, especially with Lana shouting his name, which made him feel like he was flying in the clouds. Whitney suddenly made a sliding tackle, catching Clark off guard. He couldn't let Whitney touch him, otherwise, it would be like running under the undercarriage of a speeding truck. What would happen if someone slid into a speeding truck? Your legs would be crushed. Oh no, Clark stepped forward with his right foot, avoiding Whitney's sliding tackle. However, his footing was lost, his center of gravity suddenly unstable, and he stumbled backwards. And who was behind him? It was Leah. Leah was still thinking about laughing at Whitney's joke, when he suddenly realized that Clark was falling towards him. If it had been anyone else, even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Leah might have been able to offer a helping hand. But it was Clark Kent, the man nicknamed the Man of Steel. A humanoid piece of steel bearing down on you, anyone trying to help would be a fool. He instinctively tried to dodge, but he tragically discovered he lacked superhuman reflexes and speed. He could only watch helplessly as Superman inched closer and closer. Brother, don't do it, we're on the same side, was Leah's last thought. The next second, he heard the sound of bones snapping, and he was sent flying backwards. Getting hit by a sports car at 120 kilometers per hour must be about the same feeling. Oh no, Leah, what's going on? Oh my god, his bones are broken. Ambulance. Call 911. Leah had a sliver of consciousness left, but when he heard someone call 911, the American ambulance dispatch was a world-famous expense. At the mere mention of ambulance, Leah fainted from fear. It's over, it's over. I'm broke. The most infuriating thing is that I can't go to Lana's house to help her with her homework at night. What a loss. When Leah regained consciousness, he was lying in a small hospital ward. The ward was small, with only Leah in the bed. The west curtains were drawn, and the midday sun streamed into the room, warm and cozy. Thank God, you're finally awake, swollen, as if he hadn't slept all night. Leah recognized him. It was her uncle, James Rogers. He moved, a piercing pain piercing his chest. Uncle James quickly held him down. Don't move. The doctor says you have 3 broken ribs and a broken bone in your right hand. You need to rest now, Uncle James. How long have I been unconscious? Evening. I've already asked for leave from school for you, sighed Uncle James. The Kent kids are so careless. Fortunately, injuries do happen in football matches, so no one suspected anything was wrong with Clark. Don't blame him. Football is bound to cause bumps and bruises. I can only say my physique is weak. I need to work out more. Leah didn't blame Clark. For one thing, he hadn't meant to do it, and for another, he was still counting on the Superman card. Thinking of the Superman card, Leah immediately closed his eyes and entered the system space. He had thought that after this incident, his friendship with Clark would increase slightly, but contrary to his expectations, it had dropped to 30%. Shit, Leah's face paled, and he almost vomited blood. Not only had I been seriously injured and hospitalized, but I also lost the opportunity to have in-depth discussions and tutoring with Lana, and my friendship with Superman had even dropped. What a loss. But on second thought, it made sense. Clark was a man with a strong sense of responsibility. After this incident, he felt guilty and ashamed to face me, which was why his friendship level dropped. That had to be the case. It definitely wasn't because he discovered my relationship with Lana. Uncle James listened to Leah's words with a hint of encouragement in his eyes. Good job, I'm relieved that you think so. By the way, the flowers on your bedside table were sent by a little girl. I think it's from the Land family. Yes, they came last night. The Kent family is here too. Sheriff Rogers, I'm sorry to have caused you so much trouble. The middle-aged man in a vintage denim jacket stepped forward and shook Leah's uncle's hand. The two adults exchanged pleasantries before turning their attention to Leah. These two people must be Clark's adoptive parents, Jonathan Kent and Martha Kent. Though middle-aged, Martha still retained her charm. She held out a lunchbox and said to Leah, Leah, I want to say Clark's apologies. Here's some soup I made for you. I hope you get better soon. Auntie Martha soup is delicious. I just tasted a little, and I think you'll like it too. Lana placed fresh flowers on the bedside table and winked at Clark, prompting him to say something. Clark opened his mouth, his expression revealing genuine remorse, as if he hated his superpowers. He just wanted to be an ordinary high school student, hanging out with his friends and playing football. I'm sorry, could you guys step out for a moment? I need to talk to Clark alone, Leah said calmly to the group. Aunt Martha was a little worried. She asked, is there anything you can't say in front of us? Father Ken was more cooperative. He waved his hand to interrupt Aunt Martha, then smiled at Leah and said, okay, Clark, you stay with Leah for a while. Let's go back first. With Father Ken taking the lead, left the ward. Lana pouted unhappily, what can't be said in front of me? You're making it so mysterious. Chapter 5, Beep, Superman card. Everyone left the room. Clark stepped forward and spoke first, whether you want to yell at me or hit me, go ahead. I won't fight back. Leah was stunned by Clark's reaction and retorted, why would I hit you or yell at you? Please, this isn't your fault, it's my fault. If I hadn't gone to the training camp, you wouldn't have gotten hurt. Clark, I know you're different. Superboy's face changed at Leah's words. He instinctively took a step back, looking at Leah warily. Leah could sense his friendship with Clark plummeting. Don't worry, I don't mean to expose you or threaten you. Leah quickly calmed Clark and explained, you have a gift, Clark, that's not a gift, that's a curse. Clark shook his head. He had repeatedly asked his adoptive father why he was so different. He just wanted to be an ordinary person. To have an impulsive love affair, to become a football star in everyone's eyes, instead of hiding his true self. Originally, many life lessons had to be imparted to him bit by Father Ken, but Li Yang, in an effort to boost their friendship, immediately launched into a pot of fragrant, rich, soul-stirring sermons. You know, Clark, you can't choose where you were born, but at least you can choose how to use your gifts. You were born with a purpose, and your gifts aren't meaningless. Understand, I hope you remember this. With great power comes great responsibility. Sorry, Uncle Ben, I'm using your wise saying again to show off. Ahem, I'm just trying to teach someone a lesson. I admit I was trying to gain Superboy's friendship, but if this gives him some direction to strive for, that's a good thing. After hearing this, Superboy's eyes flickered with a strange light, and he kept muttering, with great power comes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. It took Clark a while to fully digest these words. He seemed to have some understanding, but he couldn't quite wrap his head around it. Even if my gift isn't a curse, my parents wouldn't allow me to use my powers, Clark said with a sigh. I didn't ask you to use your powers right now, Clark. Just like you hit me, it's not because you have powers, but because you can't control them. If you can do something intense with someone without getting hurt, then you've mastered your powers. Clark assumed Leo was talking about playing soccer, but after thinking it over, he felt Leo had a point. If he'd been more aware of Whitney's movements, or had dodged quickly enough, or had reacted calmly enough to the situation, then yesterday's incident could have been avoided. You're right, I'm not ready yet. Clark glanced at Leah gratefully, then smiled, a genuine smile. He no longer felt guilty about hitting Leah, nor was he confused by his uniqueness. Although he still felt a little lost, he had found a direction. He knew that comes great with great power responsibility, and he could make his gifts meaningful. It was true that Jonathan had taught Clark well. Superman's true charm lay not in his immense strength, but in his charisma, his universal love, his selfless character. Without these, Superman would be nothing more than a warrior with superpowers, not a true hero. Leah simply gave a brief nudge, and the effect was remarkable. Ding, friendship level raised to friendly. Clark Kent character card unlocked. A brilliant purple light erupted in Leah's consciousness, and in that instant, Leah's heart was filled with excitement. All the injuries, all the inability to communicate deeply, were worth it the moment this purple card appeared. Purple card, Clark Kent, original name, Kal-El, race, Kryptonian primary card effects, Man of Steel, super strength, super speed, heat vision, X-ray vision, freezing breath, flight, unlocked, etc. Additional notes, a versatile growth type with endless potential. The card's level will increase with personal growth. Can the card level up? As Superboy grows into true Superman, this character card will level up too. From a purple hero card to a gold legendary card, Leah's breath nearly stopped with excitement, his heart pounding, and he couldn't wait to equip the Superboy card. Equipment, Superman card, Whitney, Get Out. A purple glowing card replaced Whitney's original slot, and Clark Kent's character card was placed in the main slot. At that moment, Leah's body surged with boundless power. The midday sun streamed through the window, piercing the hospital room. Leah felt as if he had embraced the entire world. His fractured wound itched, and in the next moment, the pain was gone. Wow, this feels so good. Leah jumped off the bed wrist, then squeezed it firmly. With a snap, the plaster cast on his arm shattered, revealing his fair arm. Clark didn't speak, but narrowed his eyes. He was scanning Leah's arm and ribs with his X-ray vision and asked in disbelief, How is that possible? I did see your bones were broken yesterday. He had scanned Leah with X-ray vision the previous day when he'd injured her, but after just one night, the broken bones had healed. I see. You have a Clark asked excitedly. He had always thought he was the only one special, but discovering Leah's miraculous abilities filled him with a thrill no less intense than Columbus's discovery of the New World. This proved he wasn't alone, that he had people like him, a sense of belonging. Superpowers too. Is yours healing? No, you can think of it as duplication. Clark, I copied yours. Leah, mindful of Americans' aversion to concealment and lies, paraphrased the system's existence, initially worried that Superboy might be upset. In reality, Clark didn't care. Instead, he was a bit excited. Cool, so, you're an alien too? I guess so. Leah thought to herself, I'm more than an alien. I'm not even from your universe. Strictly speaking, I'm from a parallel universe. Then where's your spaceship? Did your uncle hide it in the cellar for you? Please save this book and recommend it. Anyone who votes for this book will receive an invitation to have an in-depth conversation with the goddess tonight. Chapter 6, Serious Nonsense. After learning Leah's secret, Superboy went into 100,000 question mode. Leah, though annoyed by him, patiently explained, thinking of their burgeoning friendship. Their friendship level climbed to 20% before stabilizing. Friendly unlocks 40% abilities, and the next level, Trust, unlocks 55%. However, there's no need to rush things. Friendship takes time to build. The deepest bonds often come from comrades who've fought together for years, true friends who can trust their lives. After chatting for a while, Leah wanted to experience what it was like to be 40% Kryptonian, so he suggested, hey, Clark, come for a walk with me, but you're a patient now. Is it really appropriate for you to just go out like that? Clark asked, worried. Indeed, a wounded man lying in a hospital bed with broken arms and legs just minutes ago, then appearing full of life the next moment, was a surprising turn of events. What else can I do? I can't keep it in the ward forever. If the doctor does a routine checkup, I'll be caught. Leah didn't care anymore. He just wanted to get out of the hospital quickly and leave the mess to his uncle. His uncle probably couldn't keep this a secret, but it was better than letting all the doctors in the hospital know. With this thought, Leah quickly walked to the window and opened it. His ward was on the 3rd floor, 9 meters high. An ordinary person would be killed nearly instantly if they jumped out. I'm not an ordinary person anymore. With this thought, Leah gritted his teeth, took a deep breath, and jumped out of the window. In his mind, he should be spinning 360 degrees in midair, then landing on one knee, a set of movements that were so smooth and flowing, so cool that it was unmatched. However, Leah still overestimated his coordination, especially after suddenly gaining Clark's superpowers. He turned his head and landed flat on his face. At least Leah is a body of steel, a face of steel. His face hit the concrete road, but surprisingly, his skin didn't break at all. Instead, the road was completely shattered. Snap! There was a soft thud behind him, and Clark jumped out, following Leah. He stepped forward, concerned, and asked, Leah, are you okay? I saw your face. No. You didn't see it. Leah interrupted quickly, hands clasped behind his back, a lonesome expression on his face. A true hero, while gazing at the stars, should also connect closely with the earth. It was the first time Clark had heard someone describe a complete fall so refreshingly. He couldn't help but laugh. I seem to be used to your serious nonsense all the time. Leah, didn't you say you copied my superpowers? Can you match my speed? If you keep it at 40%, I can catch up. Leah said the last word, stomping his foot hard on the ground. He launched out like a cannonball, appearing with a bang in the distance. You're cheating. Clark immediately unleashed his super. Because of his red denim jacket, he looked like a flash of red lightning, suddenly appearing beside Leah. Two shadows ran, one behind the other, quickly escaping the hospital and onto the town's main street. From there, they darted speed onto the road, circling the entire town 4 or 5 times before stopping. While Clark remained calm and composed, Leah was only at 40% of his strength. He gasped for air, and it took him a while to fully recover. Your stamina isn't great, Clark smiled, walking side by side with Leah. Their friendship had reached friendly, making them considered good friends. Therefore, Clark was much more casual with Leah than at first, even beginning to tease him. It's hard to compare with you. You might not believe this, but I'm a smart guy, Leah said shamelessly. Your nonsense. However, he didn't continue insulting Leah. Instead, he changed the subject. Leah, you told me before that with great power comes great responsibility. You have superpowers, so, what are your responsibilities? The two of them walked onto a bridge. Leah leaned on the railing, gazing into the distance. He said calmly, there's definitely more than just the two of us in this world with superpowers. Leah had pondered this question since he first learned he was in the DC universe. The DC universe wasn't peaceful. Not to mention the criminals bombing banks, airplanes, and buildings at every turn. Just the extraterrestrial threats, Zod, Doomsday, Brainiac, Steppenwolf, the Dark Lord Darkseid. In such a world, if you were lucky and the superheroes protecting you were powerful, That was fine. Parallel universe where even Superman had turned evil, establishing the Superman regime and killing numerous superheroes, including Batman. There's an Easter egg in Batman v Superman where Batman sees a military unit with an S tattooed on their armbands in a dream. That's the Superman regime. In short, this world is dangerous. Leah sighed and continued, I want to form an alliance to unite all the righteous superpowers and fight against the evil ones. Clark's eyes sparkled at this simple statement, cleverly grasping the crux of the matter. If all the good superpowers can truly unite, as you say, then all of Kansas, no, the whole world, will be a better place because of you, Leah. I never thought you had such lofty ambitions. Really? Really? Leah's face was filled with question marks. He was just trying to show off in front of Superman. To put it bluntly, he wanted to bring out the entire Justice League. Leah's idea of forming a Justice League was even simpler. He wanted to boost his friendship points. He wanted to unlock cards and gain superpowers. However, the real reason was clear to him. Leah wouldn't be so foolish as to explain it to Superboy. Leah knew that, at least at this moment, his image in Superboy's heart was incredibly high. Have you decided on a name for the League? Clark asked expectantly. I've already thought of it. Injustice League, Leah said firmly. What? Ahem, it's league dedicated to fighting injustice, or Injustice League for short, Leah said, enjoying a bit of a joke in front of Superboy. Then why not just call it the Justice League? Great name. It's up to you, the Justice League. Well, from now on, Clark Kent, you're the vice president of the Justice League. I'm still the youngest. Superboy instantly realized Leah was setting him up again. It's definitely going to get bigger. The two exchanged glances and laughed heartily. At that moment, a white Porsche sped past it over 180 kilometers per hour. The driver, perhaps losing control of the steering wheel or perhaps on the phone, suddenly lost control and crashed into Leah. Speaking of updates, this book will be under contract for the next 2 days, with 2 updates daily, at noon and around 5 p.m., with an additional update on Sundays. I hope everyone will support me by giving me a 5-star rating, casting daily votes, and so on. Thank you. Chapter 7, Take This With You. Leah, be careful. Clark was the first to react. In a flash, he pushed Leah out of the way, only to be struck by the Porsche. With a roar, the bridge's railings shattered, and the Porsche, bearing Clark, careened into the river. Leah wasn't worried about Clark's safety. After all, Superman was so strong that even a mountain falling on him wouldn't hurt him, let alone a car. The Porsche's owner, however, was probably in danger. Leah dove into the water, placed his hand on the Porsche's door, and with a gentle push, ripped it free as if ripping a piece of paper. Clark swam over, pulled the driver out, and swam to shore with Leah. A bald guy, Leah got a good look at the driver. He was bald, but dressed in a well-tailored suit. He looked only a few years older than Leah and Clark, yet he drove a limited edition Porsche, a wealth you'd have to believe. Bald, and I remember his license plate was capital I Lex. Could this be the infamous Lex Luthor? While Leah was stunned, Clark was already giving Lex CPR, chest compressions and breathing. Ugh, Superboy's first kiss was actually with Lex Luthor. Leah looked on with a puzzled expression. Clark and Lex Luthor had indeed been good friends in the early days, but their philosophies had diverged, and the rift between them grew deeper and deeper, until they became sworn enemies. If I kill this guy now, won't it save me a lot of trouble in the future? The thought flashed through Leah's mind, but he could only think about it. Killing an innocent person in front of Superboy would probably make him turn against him immediately. Forget it, let's just spare his life. By the way, if I obtained Lex Luthor's character card, what superpower would I gain? Would having money count? Ahem, after spitting out the river water he'd inhaled, Lex regained consciousness. His eyes met Clark's with surprise and delight. Their gazes locked for a full 5 seconds before he murmured, "You saved my life, but I clearly remember bumping into you. If you had bumped into me, I'd be dead," Clark said flatly. I think we should call the police first." In the United States, they basically called the police for any incident. From the most serious to the most trivial, a single call and the police would arrive. Of course, the police bill. Lex nodded in agreement. After all, he needed a crane to lift his Porsche from the river. As for the police bill, Lex offered to cover it for the entire year, and he wouldn't care about the money. "Leah, you can't be here right now. Go." Clark reminded Leah that he was supposed to be in the hospital. "It would be fine if you disappeared and ran home, But if you were found alive and kicking outside of town, that would be a serious matter. Leo raised his hand to make an OK sign, then trotted off. As he neared the town's main street, he used his super speed to evade everyone's attention and returned to his home. As he entered, Leo almost bumped into his Uncle James. "Leo? Where the hell have you been, you little bastard? Instead of staying at the hospital, you little bastard? I almost thought you were kidnapped." Uncle James flew into rage upon seeing Leo. The next moment, his eyes froze, and he suddenly realized something. He grabbed Leo's arm. How did your injury heal? If I told you I didn't have a fracture at all, and it was a misdiagnosis by the doctor, would you believe me? Leo asked weakly. James was silent for a moment. His sharp profile imposing. "Impossible. I saw them set your bones myself, and if this was a misdiagnosis, I'll sue those doctors to death." "Okay, wait a minute, I'll make up another excuse." Leo sat down, looking as if racking his brains. Uncle James held his forehead. "Come on, Leo, I'm glad you're okay. Our town has a lot of strange things going on. Honestly, I've seen a lot in my years as sheriff. People who can send lightning, coaches who can control fire. Sorry I snapped at you just now, I was just worried about you. Ever since the meteor shower 10 years ago, the town has been plagued by strange occurrences. Actually, they were all caused by the radiation from the Krypton meteorite, but to ordinary people, they were just fires and electrical faults. Why haven't you ever told me about this?" Leo was surprised. "You're just a kid, what's there to tell you? As for your strange behavior, I mean the sudden healing of your injuries. Just stay home for the time being. I'll take you to Metropolis Hospital in a few days for a full checkup." A full checkup wasn't a problem for Leo. After all, as long as he removed the Superman card from the main card slot, he would be back to being a 24K pure Earthling. "No problem, I've never been to Metropolis before," Leo agreed with James's suggestion. Upon learning that Leo was alright, Sheriff James breathed a sigh of relief. "Alright, I have to take care of your mess. I'll tell the hospital you should go home and recuperate. I'll also call back the police officers who were sent to look for you." "Uncle, I'm sorry to have caused you so much trouble," Leo said, feeling a little guilty. After all, his uncle was one of the few people in the world who truly cared about him. James, however, took it easy. He shrugged and said, "Hasn't you caused me enough trouble since you were little?" For the next few days, Leo stayed home. Perhaps because he'd lost his Whitney charm, Lana hadn't visited him, and Lana's friendship level was now average, somewhere between friendly and ordinary, saying, more than friends, but less than lovers. Clark, however, was loyal and often visited Leo. That afternoon, Leo was crouched by the window, using his X-ray vision to maintain order on the street. Well, he was really just looking through the clothes of beautiful passers-by to see if they were carrying any dangerous items. After all, as the ancients say, the more beautiful a woman is, the more dangerous she is. "Lee, the homecoming dance is coming up soon. Are you going back?" Clark's voice suddenly appeared behind Lee, startling him. "Brother, knock on the door. I just ran into your uncle when I came in, and your door was open." Clark pulled up a chair and sat down with anticipation. "Have you found a partner for the homecoming dance?" The so-called homecoming dance is a traditional tradition in American schools. In late September, after the fall semester begins, seniors are invited back to their alma mater for the dance. Choosing a partner is a major concern for all the boys at the dance. Clark, naturally, is no exception. He wants to invite his dream girl, Lana, to be his partner. However, the young Superman, who is just beginning to fall in love, has no idea how to flirt with women, so he turns to Lee, one of his few friends who has a connection with Lana, for help. Leo wondered if he'd tell Clark he wanted Lana as his dance partner. Would their hard-won friendship be shattered? Just as Leo was struggling with this, a series of blaring police sirens blared outside the window. Leo and Clark listened intently. After all this time, he'd become quite proficient in his abilities like super hearing. A cacophony of voices flooded their ears, but they concentrated, calling the information they needed to hear. A bank robbery, about 5, all armed, and holding hostages. Leo could see the struggle in Clark's eyes. He wanted to help the police, but he was also worried about exposing his abilities and bringing trouble to his family. "Clark, remember what I said? With great power comes great responsibility. It's time to keep the peace in town. But you'll have to put on a disguise and carry this on your head. Leah casually picked up the greasy yellow paper bag that had been holding his burger and latte on the table. Please recommend. Please give it a 5-star review. Recommendations and positive reviews are crucial to this book. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, Codename Superman. When Clark saw the greasy yellow paper bag in Leah's hand, his face turned green. Are you kidding me? I'd rather die than put that on my head. Leah's eyes suddenly became extremely serious, and he said solemnly, Clark, I know this yellow paper bag isn't very pretty, but a true hero should possess a certain quality, you know? You should learn to see beyond the outside to appreciate a person's inner beauty, but, no buts, remember, your true charm comes from your heart, not from your clothes or your mask. Leah spoke more firmly. Perhaps I can take some time to find you a beautiful mask, so you can protect the hostages, fight the criminals, and look cool. But the longer you hesitate here, the more dangerous the hostages will be. I don't believe you. Clark scanned Leah's room with his X-ray vision and pulled out 2 Halloween masks from the closet. He put on one, tossed the other to Leah, and then rushed out, like a flash of red lightning, disappearing at the end of the street. Leah touched his nose, donned a mask, and followed. At the West Street small-town bank, 5 armed gangsters had taken everyone hostage. For such a vicious incident, the small-town police mobilized nearly their entire force, surrounding the bank in 10 police cars. Listen up, gangsters inside. You're surrounded. Lay down your weapons and surrender immediately for leniency. The police's calls were answered by the sound of gunfire from the gangsters inside. A burly man, a cigar between his lips, fired a burst of machine gun fire at the door. Flames shot out, and the police scrambled for cover. Amidst the barrage of gunfire, the burly gangster laughed uncontrollably. Haha, surrender? You damned policeman. If you dare take a step forward, we'll kill all the hostages. Do you dare come up? Bags, undoubtedly filled with US dollars. The last man held a hostage, a young girl. Listen up, cops. We have over a dozen hostages in here, plus a bundle of explosives. Get us a truck immediately, or I'll detonate it. As he spoke, the burly criminal waved a remote control, as if to say, if you don't agree to our demands, prepare for your funeral. What should we do, Chief James? The officers looked at each other, fearing the safety of the hostages and hesitant to act, yet unwilling to let the criminals go. Chief James slammed the police car hard. Fuck. Human lives are at stake. Do as the criminals demand and rescue the hostages first. At that moment, 2 figures appeared on the scene, both wearing black masks. For a moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on them. Where did these 2 naughty kids come from? Why are they wearing masks? They are probably 2 naughty kids attending a masquerade ball. Clark ignored the discussions of the people around him. He stared at the girl who was held hostage by the gangsters and whispered, It's Chloe, she has been kidnapped, I have to save her. Who is Chloe? Leah asked back. I'm the editor of our school newspaper, and I'm also a member of the staff, Clark said, about to walk forward. A nearby police officer spotted Clark and immediately shouted, You two, get out of here. Don't mess around. Sergeant James also looked over. He paused for 2 seconds after spotting Leah, then pointed at him, frowning. No. I'm not. Leah interrupted his uncle with a gruff voice, saying gravely, Please call me Avenger. Everyone was stunned by the words Avenger. Clark immediately tugged at Leah's sleeve and asked, Avenger? Is that your code name? Right. I can't use my real name when I'm a vigilante, Leah whispered. Clark subconsciously, then asked, what's my name? You, Superman? That name sounds like a middle school boy in a tights. Too corny. Clark shook his head. Leah's face was filled with disbelief, a bit unable to believe his ears. Young and naive Clark Kent actually called the codename Superman too corny. Didn't hear you clearly. Please repeat what you just said. Clark, seeing that Leah's phone was recording, swallowed the words on his lips. Sergeant James, standing nearby, was furious and yelled at Leah and Clark, You two, I don't care if you call yourself Avengers or Superman, get out of here immediately or I'll arrest you for obstructing official duties. Tom, get them out. The gang members holding Chloe hostage were also furious. Fuck you. We're robbing a bank, and out of nowhere are these two people stealing the spotlight, and with the police surrounding them, they couldn't escape. The gangsters started yelling, "Hey! Do you understand what's going on? This is my first bank robbery, so give me some respect, okay? Where's the truck I told you to prepare? If it doesn't show up, I'll shoot this girl." As they spoke, they pointed their guns at Chloe's head and raised the bomb remote, ready to press it if they disagreed. Leah's temper flared up. "Oh my god, my first bank robbery is glorious. This is my first time as a vigilante. Superman, on the count of 3, you save that girl, and I'll grab the bomb remote." "Yes," Clark nodded, his eyes becoming extremely serious. "You two boys, keep yourselves out of my way," James roared, eager to beat Leah up. But Leah ignored him and counted, 1, 3, counting after 1, he skipped 2. Before the word 3 was even finished, Leah and Clark vanished from their positions, reappearing at the bank entrance 20 meters away as if by teleportation. Leah rushed over to the burly gangster holding the bomb remote and crushed his hand bones. Before he could even scream, the remote was already in Leah's hands. Clark, meanwhile, snatched the gun from the gangster holding Chloe hostage and, with a gentle push, sent the unfortunate gangster flying. He slammed into the wall with a thud and passed out. "Shoot! Shoot! Kill them!" the burly gangster whose arm Leah had crushed screamed. The remaining 3 men immediately raised their guns, aiming at Leah and Clark without hesitation and pulling the trigger. Da-da-da! A barrage of bullets erupted, and the surrounding crowd turned their heads, as if a bloody and horrific scene would unfold in the next moment, too horrific to watch. Chloe, still terrified, screamed and closed her eyes in despair at the gangster's threat to kill them. Seeking daily recommendations. Seeking a 5-star rating. Chapter 9, Lex's Gift. Then, Chloe heard a series of clanging sounds, like bullets hitting thick steel. She instinctively felt herself, finding herself fine. She opened her eyes, and a figure stood in front of her, blocking the bullets. What's going on? Chloe wasn't the only one there, but many others watched helplessly as the assailants opened fire on the 2 teenagers. God, are these 2 guys wearing bulletproof vests? No, they don't look like they're wearing any underneath their jackets. Oh my god, are they made of steel? Everyone gasped in surprise, and the officers on the scene jumped to their feet. Sergeant James was speechless with astonishment. He strongly suspected that the man calling himself Avenger was his nephew. But how could his nephew be invulnerable? It didn't make sense. While Leah could stand bullets, he only had 40% of Superboy's current abilities, and his defense was only 40%. While the bullets couldn't penetrate his skin, they still hurt. "You criminals, you've let this town down." With that, Leah charged forward. With super speed and super strength, he defeated the criminals with just a few punches and kicks. After ensuring his editor, Chloe, was alright, Clark rushed into the bank, rescued the remaining hostages, and defused the bomb. With the crisis over, the police immediately surrounded the group, cuffing those who needed to be arrested and sending those who needed to be hospitalized. Chloe looked at Clark with even more affection and said, "Your name is Superman, right? Thank you for saving me." "Hey, you two." A black police officer walked up to Leah and Clark and shouted, "Leave your contact information here, especially you, the self-proclaimed Avenger. You broke that guy's bones, and his medical expenses should be yours. Insurance will cover it." "Why are you looking for me?" Leah knew the black officer was clearly trying to get their identities, so she naturally refused to fall for it. She exchanged a glance with Clark. "Run." The two understood what he meant. With a whoosh, 2 gusts of air were heard, and they disappeared in an instant. A gust of cold wind blew across the black officer's face, slapping it randomly. They were applauding them for punishing the criminals and rescuing the hostages, or for escaping the officer's questioning wheat. Leah and Clark ran all the way to Kent Farm and stopped. As they walked towards the farm, they talked about what had just happened. Superboy was clearly delighted with his moment as a vigilante today, a chance to fulfill his own destiny while also helping others. On the farm, his father, Jonathan Kent, was threshing with a machine. Hearing someone approach, he looked up and said with a smile, "Hey, Clark." "Leah, are you okay?" Just got the cast off." Leah feigned weakness. Clark, standing by, chuckled, "Sorry, Leah, I told my family about your powers, but don't worry, they'll keep it a secret." "Clark, why are you telling me now?" Leah glared at Superboy. He wasn't worried the Kents would reveal his secret. After all, they'd kept it a secret for Clark's entire life, I apologize again. I'm sorry, I got too excited knowing someone else had superpowers like me, Clark explained. He headed toward the farm and suddenly spotted a brand new truck. Dad, did you buy this car? Can I drive it? Chauvinism. He stubbornly believed there was no need for a new car, unless Clark got into college. Many of his peers had cars, so Clark longed for one, too. Seeing a brand new truck in his backyard was naturally a delight. Ken's father's face darkened. That Luthor kid gave it to you as a thank you for saving his life? But Clark, I want you to give it back. Don't want you to have anything to do with the Luthors. It was mainly because Lex's father, Leno Luthor, was a profiteer who had repeatedly defrauded the town's residents. Ken, with his strong sense of justice, harbored a prejudice against the Luthors. In reality, Ken's father's judgment was spot on. Lex would indeed become Superman's #1 enemy in the future, though neither side had yet realized it. Leah stepped forward, patting Clark on the shoulder and reassuring him, "Clark, I think your father is right. Once helping someone is tainted with profit, it completely changes. And, can I say I think Lex is a dark figure? Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll just go and return the car." It turns out that for a rebellious teenager, friends' advice is far more easily accepted than parents, and Superman is no exception. Ken's father handed Clark the truck keys and said to Leah, "Leah, if it's convenient, come to my house for dinner tonight. Clark has found a friend he can hang out with, and as a father, I'm happy." "No problem, Mr. Kent," Leah agreed graciously. Clark took the keys, started the truck, and Leah got in. They drove with Clark to Lex's house to return the truck. Along the way, Clark rubbed the steering wheel with a touch of melancholy. Leah, sitting in the passenger seat, patted his shoulder. "If you really want a car, let's find part-time jobs starting next month and pool our money. We should be able to buy a used car in no time. Isn't vigilante work a part-time job for us?" Clark smiled, his fangs flashing. "It's not like robberies happen every day. Our town's security isn't that bad," Leah quipped. After today's bank robbery, Leah noticed that Clark's friendship with him had increased significantly, reaching 42%. The higher the friendship level, the harder it is to increase. Reaching the highest level, a life-or-death friendship, would probably require 5 or 6 years of fighting side by side. Fortunately, there's nothing wrong with being Superman's friend. On the contrary, through this time together, Leah felt that the Superman in his mind had become more three-dimensional and fleshed out. In his mind, Superman was no longer a serious-faced symbol of invincible fighting power, but a person who also had the troubles of adolescence and was gradually developing into a great hero. "It's great to witness your growth," Leah whispered. "Clark, I haven't gotten my driver's license yet, but I often help my dad transport vegetables to the market, so I've been driving for 3 years." Leah smiled and shook his head. After turning a corner, the view suddenly opened up. In the center of a wide artificial lawn stood an English-style castle. "Is that Lex Luthor's house? My God, poverty really limits my imagination. This is too extravagant." Chapter 10, Can't Cleanse. As the car approached the Lex family compound, the guard, upon hearing it was Clark Kent, immediately led him in. "Master Clark, please come in. Master Lex has specifically instructed you to come and go freely." "Thank you." Clark's expression remained as blank as ever. Lee, beside him, mimicking the guard's tone, jokingly said, "Master Clark, are you still missing something for your leg?" Laugh, but he forced himself to hold it back. They parked the truck in the courtyard in front of the castle. They wouldn't be so foolish as to park a truck in Lex's garage. After all, one tire from any of the cars in the garage could buy 10 of them. "Since you're here, come in and say hello to Lex." Clark and Lee walked through the gate together, and the butler immediately led them upstairs. "Young masters, please come with me to the VIP room for a moment. Master Lex is currently discussing business with a friend, but he'll be here soon." Following the butler, Leah took in the decor of Lex's home. Honestly, Leah struggled to find the right words to describe the Lex residence. Everything about it exuded one word: luxury. Not only were the walls and floors exquisitely crafted, but even a painting perched in a corner was a true masterpiece. He didn't know the artist, but the impression was simply impressive. Passing by a small, unassuming room, Leah noticed the door was locked. Curious, he squinted and used his X-ray vision to peer inside. His expression changed, and he instinctively glanced at Clark. Superboy was admiring the Lex's decor, nearly knocking over an armored knight near the inner door. What would you two young masters like to drink? I'll prepare some, the old butler asked as he led Lee and Clark into the VIP room. Hot chocolate for me, latte for Clark. Lee dismissed the butler, his face darkening as Clark addressed. Clark, I told you Lex wasn't a good person. Come with me and see what I've discovered. What's wrong? Why do you say that? Clark was confused by Lee's words. Come over and you'll see. Lee led Clark to the door of the small room they'd been in and said, use your X-ray vision to see what's inside. We can't just pry into other people's privacy. Don't tell me that's Lex's family safe. Clark thought that was a bad idea. His safe is in the basement, and it looks like there's a ton of gold in it. That's not the point. I'm asking you to see what's inside this room. After you see it, talk to me about your right to privacy. Okay, Lee interrupted. Inside, it was incredibly spacious, as if several rooms were connected. In the center of the room sat a white Porsche, its front end shattered and the driver's door removed. This was the same car Lex had driven Clark into the river in. Next to it was a supercomputer, running various data models. He's researching that incident. Clark's face suddenly darkened, and he immediately wanted to enter the room to investigate. The door was locked, but no lock in the world could stop Superman. With a click, the lock broke, and Clark strode into the room. Leah, anticipating Clark's reaction, teased him from behind. Where's your right to privacy? Bro, you're trespassing. Superboy blushed, but he still bravely entered. Inside, the walls were covered with various documents about Clark. The supercomputer recreated the entire scene, from the moment Lex's car lost control to the speed, force, and destructive force of the collision. Any data showed that the front of the car had indeed hit Clark, and there was no way he could have survived. He's investigating me. Lex Luthor is investigating me. Clark's voice was a little angry. No matter who it was, being investigated in such a secret would be uncomfortable, not to mention that Clark had a big secret. Clark, calm down, your father is right, the Luthors are not trustworthy. Leah felt it necessary to remind Clark that the Luthors were not good people, and they had very bad intentions. Just as Leah was considering whether to punch the computer, a voice suddenly rang out at the door. Clark, I can explain. The two looked behind them and saw Lex Luthor appearing at the door. You are investigating me? Clark stepped forward and questioned. Lex, frightened by Clark's aura, took a step back and quickly explained, No. I just want to understand what happened. Clark. I mean no harm to you. Lee knew Lex was already suspicious of Clark, so he felt the need to clear his name is wrong. I was the one who opened the door. I don't know how I had the strength to open the door. Maybe it was the rush of adrenaline, the rush of water, gravity, or any other factors you haven't considered. Anyway, there's no such thing as supernatural powers. We're just ordinary humans. If you don't believe me, I can open the door again right in front of you. Lee rolled up his sleeves and was about to charge. Clark twitched his lips, but said nothing. Lex, with a look of guilt on his face, stopped Lee. No, Mr. Lee, what I did was wrong. I'm ashamed of my actions, but could Lee give up so easily? He certainly couldn't. He wouldn't let Lex off until he showed him that he was truly ordinary. I'll show you today that we're just two ordinary people. With that, he placed his hands on the backseat door, then, gathering his strength, yanked it open. Lex sighed. I apologize for my actions, Leah. You really don't have to. Crack, there was a sound of ripping metal. Leah, even without the Superman card, had managed to tear the door open with her bare hands. Holy shit, the scene was incredibly awkward. Lex's words caught in his throat, staring at Leah with a strange expression. Clark slapped him in the face. Was his friend helping him or hurting him? Leah stared at the shattered door in disbelief, his mind already filled with a wave of disbelief. Oh shit, I've already taken off the Superman card, how come I'm still so strong? Wait, I feel like I'm much stronger than before. Leah clenched his fists. Although his current strength cannot be compared to when he was equipped with a Superman card, it is already far greater than that of an ordinary person. Could it be that after equipping the Superman card, my own basic strength is also improving? Leah thought of this possibility, and the corners of his mouth twitched. It's over, how can I wash it now? It's getting darker the more I wash it. Please recommend me. I ask again, for recommendation votes and 5-star reviews. Chapter 11, Too Big News. Well, Lex, your car door's rusted. Yes. Rusted. Let's start over with a new door. Lex shook his head. No, Mr. Lex, I really mean no harm. Please allow me to apologize again for my actions, and I'll have everything in this room destroyed right now." He spoke with such sincerity that even Lex almost believed him. If Lex Luthor were a good man, even a sow could climb a tree. Clark glared at Lex and said in an unyielding tone, "What happened that day was that you didn't help me. Lex and I pulled you out of the water together. If you have any gratitude towards us, don't do these meaningless things again. I know. I promise it won't happen again." "Never," Lex said sincerely to Clark. "I'm here today to return the car you gave me. Thank you for your kindness, but I can't take it." Clark was now deeply grateful to Lex for persuading him to return the car. Lex waved his hand. "You saved my life, at least let me express my gratitude. You not investigating me is the greatest thank you I can give you," Clark said, and beckoned to Lee. "Lee, let's go." Naturally, Lee didn't want to stay any longer, so she and Clark left Lex's house, despite Lex's repeated pleas. As they walked, Lee noticed Clark's grim expression and asked worriedly, "Are you mad at me?" Clark shook his head. "No, I almost told Lex my secret earlier. I thought he was a friend. Lex is a man who will do anything to achieve his goals. His father has always instilled in Lex the so-called art of emperorship. He even gave Lex his legal name, Alexander Joseph Luthor, hoping he would become like Alexander the Great. That shows how ambitious they are. This behavior is like a naming parent their son Zhang Qianlong, Wang Kangxi, or Emperor Zhou. It's simply courting death." Lee immediately revealed Lex Luthor's entire personality, leaving Clark stunned. "How do you know Lex so well? Come on, he's a celebrity entrepreneur. Wouldn't it be easy to track him down?" In the DC universe, early Lex Luthor was undoubtedly more popular in the hearts of the metropolitan populace than some Chinese national husband surnamed Wang. Back at the Kent farm, the Kents warmly entertained Li Yan. During that time, his uncle, Sheriff James, called and indirectly asked you if he was the Avenger who had appeared that afternoon. Li Yan, unconcerned about the other party's belief, denied it 3 times. "What are you saying? I'm not." "Don't talk nonsense." Sheriff James, preoccupied with closing the case and other follow-up work, had no time to argue with Li Yan, so he let the matter go. The next day, the small-town high school newspaper ran a headline, "Bank Robber Arrested, Brother Vigilantes Show Their Prowess." The school was buzzing with the story, though most dismissed it as science fiction. However, many who had witnessed it themselves were full of admiration for the Avengers and Superman, 2 vigilantes who had emerged from nowhere. "I didn't expect you to gain so many fans so quickly, and your top fan is a blonde beauty with a lot of potential," Leah said to Clark after reading the school newspaper. His favorite blonde was, of course, Chloe, the editor of the school newspaper. Chloe, however, was a bit nerdy and didn't dress up well, so she wasn't as good as Lana. Clark smiled wryly. "I don't want any beautiful fans. Just being able to help people's enough." Superman said that having fans was impossible in his lifetime, absolutely impossible. Leah rolled his eyes at him. Then secretly wondered if there was a beautiful reporter investigating him every day, and the reporter would be in danger, and he would come to her aid at the critical moment, and then warn her with a reluctant look, "Don't bother me anymore, you'll be in danger." It was like the American comic book version of a domineering CEO falling in love with me. Just as Leah was lost in thought, Chloe from the school newspaper walked straight towards him. Leah almost thought she recognized him, but she ignored him and walked over to Clark's desk. "Clark, why haven't you been to the newspaper office these past 2 days? It seems this girl is looking for Clark." "Didn't you notice Clark is still wearing the same denim jacket he saved you yesterday?" Leah's own clothes were riddled with bullet holes, but he at least changed into a new one, while Clark simply got 2 stitches and kept wearing them. "Is it true that the whole world won't recognize him just because he wears a mask? And he's not even wearing glasses. What a ridiculous setup." Clark, completely unaware of the barrage of complaints flooding Leah's mind, gave a slightly apologetic smile. "Sorry, I've been a bit busy lately and haven't been able to help out at the newspaper." "Isn't Pete here?" There are only 3 people working at the school newspaper, Chloe, Clark, and Pete. Chloe gets irritated by Pete's mention. He's on the school football team now, and all he does is train and train. He doesn't even care about the newspaper. "There's nothing much going on at the newspaper normally," Clark said. "You know, it's just a normal day." Chloe put her hands on her hips, looking like a tough girl. "I have 2 big stories on my hands right now, a bank robbery and a vigilante." Leah couldn't help but interject. Only then did Chloe turn to Leah and ask Clark, puzzled, "Who is this?" Leah's face darkened. Did you just see me? From the class next door, Leah Rogers. His uncle is Sheriff James. Clark stifled a laugh. You earlier. The bank robbery and the vigilante are big stories, really. I plan to follow up on them personally. There's also another one. Lex Luthor wants to develop a piece of land to the west that's a historic Native American site, and the indigenous peoples are organizing protests. Lex Luthor, Clark muttered Lex's name silently. Admittedly, he still had some resentment about yesterday's events. Chloe didn't notice anything unusual about Clark. She said brightly, Clark, I'll investigate the vigilantes. I'll leave the Luthor report to you. Chloe, I don't think you should focus on someone who can stop bullets. Maybe he's wearing a bulletproof vest. Clark tried to persuade Chloe to give up her investigation. Lex's investigation was already a headache, and now Chloe had to be added to the mix? I don't want to. I saw it with my own eyes. Superman saved my life. I have to find out who he is. Even if I don't have to report it. Chloe refused to listen to Clark's persuasion. It's decided, Clark. Give me the manuscript by the day after tomorrow at the latest. With that, Chloe walked away in a daze. After she left, Leah finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She held her stomach and laughed. What kind of expression would that little dazed girl have if she knew you were the Superman she's been thinking about? Please save this post and recommend it. Chapter 12, Clark's Glasses. Ever since Clark learned Lex was secretly studying him, he'd been deeply resentful of anyone investigating him. It wasn't that he feared the danger of his identity being revealed. After all, the only thing in the world that could threaten Superman was kryptonite. His real concern was for his family and friends, especially his adoptive parents. If his identity were exposed, it was inevitable that someone with ulterior motives would hold Clark's parents hostage and use them as a threat. We must be more cautious in our actions from now on, Leah. I don't want anyone to know my secret. It would put my family and friends in danger, Clark said worriedly. Indeed, in the DC universe, Superman's best friend Jimmy Olsen frequently found himself in danger after learning Superman's identity. That's why Superman gave him a Superman pager. Whenever Jimmy Olsen was in danger, he could just press the pager, and Superman would appear at his side at top speed. Leah, however, didn't mind. His only family now was Uncle James, a perpetually dangerous American police officer. Especially in American comics, being a police officer is an incredibly dangerous profession. Facing a group of armed criminals is fine, but facing a group of evil superpowered individuals is basically a death sentence. Fortunately, there are many righteous vigilantes who step in to help, otherwise, life would be truly unbearable. He sighed and said to Clark, I think we need a uniform, preferably a bodysuit. No. I won't wear a bodysuit, Clark righteously refused. It has to be a bodysuit, Clark. I've been wanting to tell you this for a long time. You absolutely can't wear that tattered denim jacket anymore. Listen to me, let's get a bodysuit, Leah said sternly. Why not? I've seen so many people wearing these jackets today, and no one would suspect it was me. Wearing a bodysuit would be really weird, Clark reiterated his unwillingness to wear a bodysuit. Leah held her forehead, thinking, if you can, don't wear your red underwear over a bodysuit again, Clark. The whole point of wearing tights is that they accentuate your muscles. You're wearing a denim jacket now, so no one's going to focus on your muscles. But once you put on tights, you're Superman, with a big page and 8-pack abs. Do you understand? Are you saying that through clothing, you can become two different people? Clark quickly grasped the point. Leah nodded, looking teachable. That's right. As someone who looks thin when dressed and muscular when undressed, you can definitely use clothing to create two completely different styles. Of course, you're still missing one thing. What's missing? Clark asked, his interest piqued. A pair of glasses. Leah snapped his fingers, pulled out 2 glasses cases from his backpack, and handed one to Clark. The lenses don't have prescriptions, and the frame is made of lead. I've discovered that our X-ray vision can't see through lead. So, wearing these glasses will slightly limit your ability to use your eyes. Clark took the glasses case from Leah's hand and opened it, revealing a pair of nerdy-looking glasses. He put them on his eye sockets and felt that, just as Leah had said, his X-ray vision had indeed been slightly affected. Will my thermal vision be affected too? Heat vision isn't affected. Please, these are just ordinary glasses. They can't withstand your fiery gaze. Leah rolled his eyes at Clark. Clark, wearing his lead glasses, looked even more like a nerd. No one would associate him with a man in a tights, wearing a red cape and a capital S on his chest. Yes, and what about the tights? You can't pull two out of your bag, can you? Clark offered a rare joke. That's impossible, but I drew two designs. Leah pulled out two drawings from his bag. They depicted two sets of tights. His drawings weren't great, but the general idea was clear. Clark's suit was primarily blue and red, with a signature S on the chest. His own was primarily black, with a capital A on the chest. The Avengers are capital I. Little Superman, unaware of his Kryptonian origins and even less familiar with his family's crest, pointed to the S on the image and asked, "What does that S stand for? We call you Superman, so it's capital I, then your logo is the Avengers." Leah nodded. "That's right. I'll find time to go to Metropolis. After all, having a tailor in a small town make it would be too obvious, and the quality wouldn't be guaranteed 50. Best of all, a trip to Metropolis only takes minutes. 30 minutes is all I need," Clark retorted bluntly. Leah rolled his eyes at Clark, put away his design, and said, "What about the ruins to the west? Chloe wants your draft due the day after tomorrow. Come with me at noon, take some photos, and some interview locals." Clark shrugged. "Or you could go directly to your friend Lex. After all, their company is the developer. If possible, I'd rather not see him." Native American ruins to the west of town. Joseph Liuwin, the oldest local indigenous man and now a professor studying ancient ruins, was leading a group of people outside the construction site to stop a protest march. "If you continue to act recklessly on this land, you will all be punished," Joseph Liuwin, an elderly indigenous man, leaning on his cane, shouted at the construction site entrance. A man who looked like the project manager emerged. Despite the man's refined suit, he looked down on the indigenous people arrested. Joseph Liuwin was furious at this unreasonable white man. His mustache trembled, and he angrily pounded the ground with his cane. "You pathetic, faithless people. You don't know what you're doing. Blaspheming Naaman will bring disaster upon you and the entire town." The white worker glanced at his co-workers, and everyone burst into laughter. "Chief, we have faith. We believe in God, not some Naaman deity of yours. Ho ha ho ha." Because of the typhoon yesterday, the contract didn't arrive at Kydian headquarters until this afternoon. The contract status might not be changed until after the weekend. Sad. Could you please give me a 5-star review and a recommendation? 3 updates tomorrow. Chapter 13, Cavachi Cave. Clark and Leah arrived at the Native American site west of the city just as the protest was winding down. They took in the surroundings, snapped some photos, and prepared to write a report. "Leah, did you hear any noises?" Clark suddenly stopped and listened. Leah followed suit, but aside from the roar of machinery on the construction site, he couldn't hear anything else. Of course, there was the possibility of an engaging couple in indecent activities in the woods a kilometer away. Given Clark's personality, he wouldn't pay attention to such things. "No, what's wrong? Is there a problem?" Leah asked, puzzled. Clark, seemingly tracking the sound, gazed down at the excavator digging in the ground. He slightly lowered his glasses so he could use his X-ray vision to scan the ground. Suddenly, his face changed. "Damn. It's empty underground. Did they do any surveying before they started?" The town's construction team, in an effort to save money, had cut corners on much of the necessary surveying. Clark rushed to the wire mesh surrounding the construction site and shouted, "Stop immediately. You're in danger," but no one listened. Leah removed his glasses and saw a large cavity beneath the ground. The excavator, operating on the surface, had nearly penetrated the upper structure. The next moment, a large section of the ground collapsed, sending many workers and machinery into free fall. A rumble. The underground cavity was over 10 meters high. A fall from such a height would be nearly impossible. The wire mesh in front of him. Then, exerting super speed, he grabbed the excavator's shovel. "Ha!" With a soft shout, Clark lifted the excavator with one hand. Leah, meanwhile, ran past Clark and tossed him his mask. "Put it on." Then, he rushed into the cave to save the people. While Superman possessed super speed, he couldn't run vertically up the rock face like the Flash. So Leah could only leap from rock face to catch the falling workers. The rescue effort was effortless. Leah was about to flee when he discovered Clark was still in the underground cave. So, in front of many people present, he leaped back into the cave. "Oh my God, who are those two masked men? I saw them lift an excavator with one hand. What a strength they must have. I recognize them. A small town bank was robbed some time ago. and two vigilantes claiming to be Avengers and save the hostages, Superman. The survivors began to discuss frantically, while Native American Professor Joseph Liu gazed reverently at the two figures leaping into the cave. The prophecy has finally come true. The prophesied savior, Naaman, has finally appeared. Inside the cave, Leah found Clark, concentrating intently on the cavern's patterns. "Clark, what are you looking at?" Clark raised his hand and pointed at the patterns on the cave wall. They were strange symbols, arranged in a long, regular pattern. "I've seen the writing on these walls before." Leah's heart raced upon seeing the words. Although he couldn't understand their meaning, he knew they were Kryptonian. "This isn't Earth writing. Could it be from your homeworld?" "Yes, I have similar writing on my spaceship." Clark stepped forward, examining it more closely. In the writing, there was a small, unassuming hole, shaped like the Superman family crest. "This hole is exactly like the key on my spaceship," Clark exclaimed. Leah walked around. The other didn't have words on them, but white murals. "Clark, look at this mural over here. It seems to convey a message." Hearing Leah's words, Clark looked away from the cave entrance and in the direction Leah pointed. The first mural on the cave wall depicts countless meteorites falling from the sky, devastating the Earth. More abstract, requiring a bit of imagination. Leah could roughly discern the implication. The figure from the meteorite possessed the strength of dozens of adults, was invulnerable, and could spit fire from his eyes. "This cave is at least 500 years old. Why would there be a record of me there 500 years ago?" Clark's heart raced. He frantically scrutinized every detail of the murals, trying to uncover the secrets of his own past. Leah shook his head. He knew the figure in the cave couldn't be Clark. After all, every Kryptonian who came to Earth could do the above. Even a Kryptonian couldn't foresee what would happen 500 years into the future. The only plausible explanation was that a Kryptonian had also arrived on Earth 500 years ago and been worshipped as a god by the locals. Outside, there was a commotion. It seemed as if several cars were approaching, called to Clark. But Clark was clearly reluctant to leave. He excitedly declared, "Perhaps this is the key to my life story. Perhaps I can place the key to the spaceship into that cave." Leah pulled the already bewildered Clark closer. "This cave won't fly away anyway. Let's leave first. Once this hype is over, you can come in and research it as a school reporter." In fact, if Leah wanted, he would reveal Clark's entire story, including his family history. After the two left, local police quickly handled the collapse. News of the mysterious cave quickly spread online. It was named Cavici Cave after the local indigenous people. Soon after, the land buyer, Lex Luthor, arrived, bringing with him a group of scholars specializing in ancient murals. "Amazing. These symbols don't belong to any known script," the scholars exclaimed in amazement after examining the unique symbols in the Cavici Cave. Lex examined the murals bit by bit, finally resting his gaze on the Kryptonian script and the central emblem hole. "This hole seems like it could hold something. I need some instruments to study it." He made up his mind and gave an order to the scholars, "Help me decipher these words as quickly as possible." Chapter 14, Meet Litu again. After leaving Cavici Caverns, Clark's first order of business was to return home and retrieve the key to his spaceship. It was a thumb-thick, conical metal object, with a Superman family crest emblazoned on its base and irregular spikes at its tip, like some kind of data port. "This is it. It's exactly the same entrance I saw inside the caverns. I think if I put the key inside, I might be able to unlock the mystery of my origins." Clark gripped the metal key tightly, while Leah frowned beside him. He seemed somewhat familiar with the Cavici Caverns, but he wasn't sure. After all, there are so many parallel universes in American comics, and there's even a version in which Superman accidentally kills his wife, Lois, and then turns evil and establishes the Superman government, Injustice. Who knows which version of Cavici Caverns this one is from? But no matter which version, Clark's spaceship key should be in his Fortress of Solitude, which should be in the Arctic, not in a small town in Kansas. "Clark, I know you're eager to learn about your origins, but you need to be careful, especially since that cavern is now Lex Luthor's territory," Leah warned. "Don't worry, I've got it figured out," Clark said, smiling at Leah. For the first few days, the town was buzzing with rumors about the Cavici Caves, but it was merely a topic of conversation after dinner. In the minds of ordinary people, it was the equivalent of a third-tier celebrity announcing their marriage. Soon, the buzz about the Cavici Caves died down, though Chloe, the editor of the school newspaper, did write several articles about it. However, her focus was primarily on the two vigilantes who rescued the workers at the site. After school that day, Clark approached Leah, who had just left the classroom. "I'm planning to go to the Kavichi Caves again tonight at 7 o'clock. I want to know what happens if I insert a spaceship key into the cave entrance. Leah, are you coming?" Leah naturally had no reason to refuse Clark's invitation. He nodded and agreed, "No problem. My uncle's on duty today, so I'll just go straight to your house." "Sure, my parents asked you to come over for dinner yesterday," Clark said cheerfully. After an anxious wait, time finally arrived at 7 o'clock in the evening. Using the moonlight, Leah and Clark arrived at Kavichi Cave. However, two men in white work clothes were still inside, using instruments to probe the wall engraved with Kryptonian characters. "This is Luthor Group territory. You can't come in," one of the men shouted upon seeing Leah and Clark. "Oh no. No one was here the other day," Clark frowned. He naturally didn't want to be disturbed while trying to uncover the cave secrets. He had already checked the time the other day, and the researchers in Kavichi Cave generally left work after 7 o'clock. Leah gave Clark a look, signaling, "Let me knock them out." Just then, footsteps were heard at the cave entrance. Before they arrived, a gleaming bald head appeared. "These two are my friends. Keep doing your work." It was like sound traveled far in the cave, so he could hear the noise from below even from the entrance. "Yes, Mr. Lex," the two researchers in white responded and continued their research. Clark glanced at Lex with gratitude, but there was a hint of loss in his eyes. "Lex, thank you." Still friends, Lex stepped forward and patted Clark's shoulder enthusiastically. Although there were some unpleasantness before. After all, the two sides did not break up completely. Lex originally wanted to make up to Clark and restore their friendship, but there have been a lot of things going on recently and he didn't find the opportunity. It happened that they met in the cave today, so naturally he tried to convey his goodwill. He looked at Leah with a smile and said, "You are here too, Mr. Hercules." He was teasing Leah for tearing off his car door twice, even though the second time was not Leah's intention. "You should still call me Leah." Leah touched his nose, feeling very embarrassed. "Okay, Mr. Leah." Lex smiled, his eyes scanning between Clark and Leah. "By the way, why don't you stay at home so late at night and come here?" Clark opened his mouth, but couldn't find a suitable excuse. Leah quickly took over and explained, "Clark and I are working on the school. Tomorrow is the deadline, so we have to rush to finish an investigation report on the Kavichi Caves tonight." "Yes, we do have to rush to finish a report," Clark agreed quickly, saying that what Leah said was right. Lex didn't doubt it after hearing it. "Are you guys working on the school newspaper?" "The day before yesterday I saw an article on it. The content was about exploring the relationship between cultural relics and modern construction. It was very well written, and many of the views were even refreshing to me. It's a pity that there is no signature." Clark wrote it. "He is a natural journalist." Leah praised Clark at the right time. "Wow, I didn't expect Clark to be so talented." Lex also took a special look at Clark, touched the spaceship key in his pocket to make sure he hadn't lost it and Lex had picked it up. Then he asked in confusion, "Unlock the secrets of Kavichi Cave? How are you going to do it?" Lex walked over to one of the researchers, took the tablet from their hand, and entered some commands into it. Two molecular structures appeared on the screen. "What are these?" Clark said, confused. After all, he was only a high school student, not a professional. "The material on the left is coming from this wall, specifically, the material around the hole, and molecularly, it's not anything we know of." Clark glanced at Lee anxiously. They both understood what Lex meant. This thing wasn't from Earth. Seeing the shock in Clark and Leah's eyes, Lex continued to explain, "Just when I was at my wit's end, my researchers discovered a very similar molecular structure. Although there are significant differences between the two, the main framework and arrangement rules are surprisingly similar." "Meteorite?" A sinister thought flashed through Leah's mind. "Yes, it's a meteorite," Lex said excitedly. 3 updates today. Please vote. Please bookmark. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, Krypton Meteorite. Having quickly tracked down the meteorite, Leah couldn't help but admire Lex's professionalism as a villain. The combination of kryptonite and Lex wasn't a friendly one for either Superman or Lee Yang. Lex, still in a state of excitement, completely ignored Clark's solemn expression and Lee Yang's constipated face. While we haven't yet determined the specific function of these meteorites, I have a bold hypothesis. If I could use them to create a key that could fit into this hole, would that mean I could unlock the secrets of this wall? You're going to use a kryptonite key to penetrate Superman's ancestral wall? Ugh, are all you villains that good at this? Lee, you really wanted to tell Lex to please stop messing around. The original key was in Clark's pocket, less than 5 meters away from Lex, yet he was using kryptonite, which is harmful to Superman, to forge a counterfeit key. Then, Lex actually pulled a metal box from his assistant's bag. Lee couldn't see the contents of the box with her X-ray vision because it was made of lead. Considering what Lex had just said, there absolutely couldn't be a kryptonite key inside. However, reality was always harsh. The moment Lex opened the lead box, a forgiving green light emanated. Clark's face suddenly turned pale, as if all his strength had been drained, leaving him utterly weak. After all, Lee Yang only had 40% of Clark's Kryptonian power, and the kryptonite had much less effect on him. Therefore, Lee Yang felt only a slight dizziness and a sense of powerlessness. This is the meteorite key I created by scanning the inside of the cave. I think if I insert it into the cave, all the mysteries will be revealed. Lex took the kryptonite key in his hand and suddenly noticed Clark's face was not looking good. He stepped forward and asked with concern, "Clark, you look bad. Are you feeling unwell?" "I'm fine. Just a little dizzy. Maybe the air here isn't good." Clark instinctively took a few steps back. He could sense that the green stone in Lex's hand was causing his weakness and discomfort. Lee closed his eyes, his consciousness entering the system space, and unequipped the Superman card. The kryptonite's influence instantly vanished. Despite the Superman card being removed, Lee could clearly feel that all of his attributes had significantly improved. His strength now far exceeded that of an average adult. Therefore, it was almost certain that when Lee equipped the card, he would also grow, and the rate of this growth was closely related to the card he equipped. For example, during this period when he was equipped with a Superman card, his abilities soared to the limits of a mortal. However, if the card was replaced with that of an ordinary person like Whitney, Lee's strength would remain stagnant, with no increase at all. After removing the Superman card, Lee positioned himself in front of Clark and addressed Lex directly. "Lex, you can't just stick a key in there. You have no idea what this meteorite does. If nothing happens, that's best. But what if something untoward happens? I think you'd better be cautious." Hearing Lee's words, Lex frowned. "Do you really understand this meteorite? I've conducted a risk assessment. Everything is under control. There won't be any problems. I really do understand this meteorite better than you do," Lee thought to himself, but the current situation was beyond his expectations. While this scene wasn't in the mainstream plot, even a quick guess would tell you that using kryptonite to penetrate something created by Kryptonians is a dreadful act of suicide. "Lex, you can't do that," Clark clearly sided with Leah. After all, everything here was directly related to his life story, and he couldn't let Lex Luthor interfere. Clark's words clearly irritated Lex even more, his expression darkening. "I thought you, too, wanted to explore the secrets of Cavici Cave. I thought we could still be friends." Lex glared at Lee and Clark, muttering, "I was wrong to investigate you privately, but I've already destroyed all the data. Now I want to uncover the secrets of this cave, and you're trying to stop me. Just because my last name is Luthor, does that mean everything I do is wrong? In all honesty, I, Lee, have never approved of you." But the next moment, Lex suddenly raised his hand and inserted the kryptonite key into the entrance cave. Clark, affected by the kryptonite, was unable to unleash his super speed. While Lee, unaffected by the kryptonite, had removed the Superman card from the main slot, he was now merely a human, slightly more powerful than an ordinary person. There was no time to stop him. The green kryptonite was inserted into the wall, and the next moment, the wall seemed to be charged, and the Kryptonian characters on it glowed green. For Superman, green is truly not a good color. As the green light erupted, the cold sweat on Clark's forehead thickened. It was clear that the entire wall was contaminated with kryptonite and experiencing some kind of energy outburst. Crack, crack. The sound of cracking rock echoed, and cracks appeared on the wall. Within these cracks, the green light grew brighter, and a dangerous and terrifying aura seemed to brew within the rock. "This wall is about to explode." Get out of here. Leah grabbed Clark's arm, placed it on her shoulder, and helped him out. The powerful green light required immense willpower for Clark to even stay awake. Fortunately, Leah's current strength surpassed that of an average person, and carrying the weakened Clark wasn't particularly strenuous. After the two of them left, two researchers also detected the energy outburst within the wall and rushed outside with Lex. As they left Cavici Cave, a loud rumbling noise echoed behind them. A green light shot up into the sky, piercing the depths of space. Simultaneously, a devastating explosion erupted within the Cavici caverns, rumbling and razing the entire cavern to the ground. A violent shockwave spread outward, sending a torrent of rock fragments flying high into the sky. Like meteorites, they fell from the sky, crushing a white-clad researcher standing beside Lex into pulp. Outside the cavern, Clark finally recovered, breathing in the fresh air like someone recovering from a serious illness. Leah re-equipped the Superman card in the main card slot, regaining his superpowers and shielding Clark from a huge rock impact. As the explosion subsided, the grassy plains west of the town were completely shattered. Lex survived the falling debris, suffering only minor injuries. He exchanged a distant glance with Leah and Clark, then turned away with a grim expression. There will be another update tonight. Please recommend and bookmark this post. Chapter 16, Superman Can't Fly. In a galaxy far, far away from Earth, a massive shuttle-shaped spaceship was making a light-speed jump. Atop the ship's bridge, a muscular man stood with his back to the crowd, his gaze fixed on the vast Milky Way beyond. Suddenly, an automatic door swung open, revealing a female soldier in black armor. She approached the man and bowed slightly. General Zod, an hour ago, we received a signal from an outpost. Due to missing information, we're unable to decipher the signal. The man, whom the female soldier called Zod, was silent for a moment. Then, turning to the female soldier, he asked, which outpost is this? Based on the information we've received, it's almost certain it was built during the Age of Expansion. It appears to have been activated for some reason, the female soldier reported. General Zod paced back and forth on the bridge, tapping his head with his fingers. He said, I must travel to the old colony in the Luke system. Flo, you and Jor-El will go to the planet where the signal was transmitted and investigate, as you command, General Zod. Excuse me, are you searching for Kal-El? The female soldier Flo asked. Yes, General Zod made no secret. In fact, he had been searching for nearly 16 years. On Krypton, the genetic code of all unborn children is recorded in the citizens' records. Jor-El stole the code from the records and hid it in the space capsule that transported Kal-El. If we find the code of life, we can harness the world engine and restore Krypton to life. The female soldier Flo bowed her head again, firmly saying, Rest assured, General Zod, I will complete this mission. Well, go ahead. Report immediately if you find anything, Zod instructed, his gaze drifting back to the vast universe. Clark returned to the Kent farm, feeling deeply dejected. He ducked into the attic of the warehouse, his personal space. So close. I almost solved the mystery of my origin. Clark angrily picked up a book and tried to throw it to the floor. But then, thinking the entire warehouse would be destroyed, he swallowed his anger and slumped down on the sofa. Leah sat beside Clark with a look of regret. Don't be discouraged. There must be other ways to find out where you were born. I don't think there's another Cavici cave in the world. What if? Leah, do you hear any noises? Clark paused, tilting his ear to listen. Leah tried to absorb the sounds of the town, but there wasn't anything special. Instead, it felt like a higher voice, transcending time and space, reached Leah's mind. It wasn't Clark's mind. Leah was only able to hear these sounds because he had the Superman card equipped. I heard it too. It sounds like some kind of language, but it doesn't sound like Earth. Leah's intuition told him it was Kryptonian, but he couldn't say the word Krypton directly, so he could only hint at it by saying not Earth's language. Clark's expression grew excited. Yes, it certainly doesn't sound like Earth's language. Clark, look in your pocket. Leah suddenly noticed a faint glow coming from inside Clark's pocket. It was where he kept his spaceship key. It seems to be trying to tell me something. Clark pulled the spaceship key out of his pocket, and the long, rectangular key suddenly floated in midair, spinning like a compass needle before finally pointing to a certain direction. Oh no. Newton's coffin is about to break, Leah muttered inwardly. I think it's pointing in the right direction. Clark looked in the direction the key pointed, and he became even more certain that the sound was coming from there. That direction pointed to the North Pole. As a fan of American comics, Leanne knew that Superman's Fortress of Solitude was also at the North Pole. There also seems to be a version where the spaceship key guides Superman to the Fortress of Solitude, where Superboy, mentored by a shadowy figure of his biological father, Jor-El, becomes the true Superman. Your destiny calls. Go, Clark, Leah encouraged. He felt that once Superboy knew his origins, he'd be much more relaxed. At least he wouldn't have to worry about him joking around with him and suddenly saying, "Hey, Kryptonians are the best." That would be incredibly awkward. But I don't know how long I'll be gone. My parents, Clark seemed a little worried. I'll explain everything to them, and they'll be happy to hear you know your origins. Don't waste your time, men. I'm here in town, don't worry. What Leah hated most was the shyness of these men. They just wanted to do whatever they wanted. What were they still worried about being idols? Hearing Leah's words, Clark chuckled self-deprecatingly, stepped forward, and patted Leah's shoulder. Thank you, brother. Leah smiled back and patted Clark's shoulder. The next moment, an electronic chime echoed in his mind. Ding, congratulations. The host and Clark Kent's friendship has been elevated to trusted. The main card's effectiveness has increased to 55%, so, a friendship upgrade? Leah remembered checking his friendship yesterday, and it was only around 86% friendly. After this night, it had suddenly increased by 14 percentage points. Perhaps Clark was too concerned about his past, so he felt a sense of déjà vu. But that didn't matter. With this increase in friendship, Leah now possessed 55% of Superboy's power, and as Superboy grew, he would become even stronger. The spaceship key floating in the air, as if sensing Clark's will, suddenly gave a slight tremor, then with a whoosh, shot straight toward the North Pole. Go, Clark, follow the key, Leah said, giving him an encouraging look. Clark heavily and said in a deep voice, "Tell my parents for me that I will be back soon." Before he finished speaking, Clark disappeared from the spot in an instant, turned into a flash of lightning and chased after the spaceship key. Leah roughly calculated that it would be about 5,550 kilometers from Kansas to the North Pole. It's a pity that Superman can't fly at this time, otherwise he could fly there in a few minutes. If he ran, he suddenly felt inexplicably sad. It's really a pitfall that Superman can't fly. Watching Clark disappear on the horizon, Leah yawned. It was already very late and it was time to go back to bed. I don't know how long Clark in this world will stay in the Fortress of Solitude. I hope that when I wake up, I can see a son of Krypton. The usual weekend update. If you guys think this book is okay, please recommend it and give it a 5-star rating on the website. Your support is my motivation to type. Chapter 17, Lois Lane. In the Arctic, NASA's Polar Emergency Satellites detected an anomaly beneath a glacier. Initially, scientists believed it was a Soviet-era submarine, but research revealed the contents to be over 20,000 years old. The woman disembarked from the helicopter, and a man, who had been waiting nearby, greeted her. "Ms. Louise Lane, I'm the on-site manager for Arctic Freight. You can call me John. I'll take you to the base." Louise put on her windproof glasses and said with a smile, "Thank you. Fan of the Daily Planet, I'm deeply impressed by the articles you wrote about infiltrating the 1st Division. You're an incredible reporter." "I'm just doing my job as a reporter, Mr. John," Louise replied modestly. She followed the man forward a few hundred meters, and suddenly a vast glacier appeared before them. In front of the glacier lay the expedition's temporary base, but the military had already moved in. "Is what they found just up ahead?" Louise asked. "Yes. They say those scientists used sonar to detect a 300-meter-long metal object beneath the glacier. Can you imagine? 300 meters long? Even the world's nuclear submarines can't even reach that length now. Is to get you settled. I'll take you to the dorms, but Ms. Louise, you absolutely mustn't leave the base at night. The temperature can plummet to -40 degrees Celsius, and your body won't be found until spring." As the two chatted, John quickly took Louise to a warehouse. For the next few days, Louise Lane, a reporter from the Daily Planet, would be there to cover the secrets beneath the Arctic glaciers. After tidying up the room, night had already fallen. Louise looked out at the crowded warehouse. Being restless by nature, she couldn't sit still and wait for dawn. So, with the adventurous spirit of seeking death, Louise left the room. The Arctic night sky was a dazzling spectacle. Workers had set up a construction site atop the glacier, using a massive drill to chip away at the ice and uncover what lay buried beneath. Lights from a crane flickered back and forth as Louise raised her camera, found an angle, and snapped the shutter at the glacier before her. Click. A photo of the Arctic night sky appeared on Louise's DSLR camera. As she admired her image, she suddenly spotted a figure perched on the glacier's cliff face. Yes, a figure. Initially, Louise thought she was seeing things, then zoomed in and out. Oh my god. It's a person, and in a short-sleeved shirt. Can't he feel the cold? Louise's perspective was shattered. The temperature hadn't even reached its lowest point, but it was still over 20 degrees Celsius below zero. Even the most hardy person in the world wouldn't be able to withstand such a drop. I have to go check it out. As a qualified journalist, Lois Lane maintained a voracious curiosity and a persistent pursuit of the truth. Seeing someone walking freely on the cliff in short sleeves, she tossed John's advice to the wind. Clark followed the spaceship key all the way to the North Pole from there. To avoid the surrounding scientific expeditions, Clark would begin his daily expeditions late at night. From the other side of the glacier, he used his thermal vision to burn a cave that extended all the way into the glacier's interior. A giant spaceship. After several days of work, Clark finally reached the gigantic, strangely shaped spaceship, its shape remarkably resembling the one Clark had boarded when he arrived on Earth. The key to the spaceship vibrated again, and Clark, excited, quickly reached the entrance and entered. Upon entering the spaceship, Clark spotted a control panel ahead. In the center, a gap perfectly matched the key in Clark's hand. Intruder detected. Suddenly, a floating object resembling a steel chrysalis flew out from the interior of the spaceship. As it approached Clark, it suddenly extended a metal tentacle, like a whip, and lashed out at Clark's chest. Snap! The metal tentacle lashed out at Clark's chest, and Clark, supposedly invulnerable, felt a jolt of pain. His eyes hardened, and he backhandedly punched the steel chrysalis key, engraved with the Superman family crest, was inserted into the control panel. The entire spaceship began to rumble, the lights flickered on, and the pristine interior of the spaceship unfolded before Clark's eyes. Confirming citizen ID, Kal-El. Warning, intruder detected outside the ship. Proceeding, the chrysalis robot, having confirmed Clark wasn't an enemy, suddenly turned and, waving its tentacles, flew towards the entrance. Clark, still perplexed, narrowed his eyes towards the entrance. It's a woman. Hey, she's not an intruder. The chrysalis robot's tentacles could even injure itself. If it were allowed to harm the woman, she would be dead. With this thought, Clark immediately gave chase. Lois, after much effort, finally followed Clark's trail to the cave. Just as she was marveling at her discovery, a chrysalis robot suddenly appeared from the ship, waving its arms. Wah! Clark screamed, appearing behind the chrysalis robot. He reached out, hugged it, and then exerted force. With a crackle, the steel chrysalis robot crumpled in Clark's hands like a piece of paper. After dispatching the chrysalis robot, Clark hurried forward to check on Louise. It's okay, Mom, you're okay now, Clark tried to comfort the panicked Louise. In fact, seeing a human in this unlikely place, especially a handsome boy, naturally attracted by his comforting smile. Who are you? Why are you here? And I just saw. Clark didn't answer Lois's question. He used his X-ray vision to check Lois's wound and said, "You're bleeding internally. If I don't stop the bleeding now, you might not survive an hour." P.S. Some readers have questions about Superman and Lois's ages, so to explain, Superman is 16 or 17, and Lois is 20. In many versions, Lois is a few years older than Superman. For example, in the American TV series Smallville, when Superman was in high school, Lois was a senior. If Lois in this book is set as an intern reporter who has just joined the Daily Planet, then this explanation still makes sense. Chapter 18, Kal-El. Okay, what are you going to do? Louise tried to slow her breathing, completely defenseless against the handsome young man before her. I have some special abilities. This might hurt a little. Just hold my hand, Clark explained briefly, then reached out and unbuttoned Louise's cold weather jacket. Without the bulky jacket, Louise's beautiful figure was clearly visible. Clark awkwardly averted his gaze, trying not to focus on the towering snow-capped peaks. After all, if he wanted to, the current glacier rescue scene could instantly transform into a scene of a cold beauty. Hold on, Clark focused his gaze on Louise's wound, a terrifying heat radiating from his eyes. The next second, Louise let out another pitiful scream. Ah! That night, the various detection instruments at the research base sounded an overload alarm. Then, a 1,000-year-old glacier began to crack, and from it flew a massive spaceship, over 300 meters long. After taking off, the craft vanished instantly. No matter how the scientists at the base adjusted their instruments, they couldn't locate it. It was as if it had vanished from the world in an instant. Afterward, Louise wrote a report about the spacecraft beneath the glacier, but the military had classified it as top secret, so it couldn't be published. Imaging authorized, systems operating normally. The intelligent AI within the spacecraft spoke again. Clark had recovered from his initial shock. After all, he had long since learned from his adoptive parents that he was from outer space, and the fact that his homeland had such advanced technology seemed unacceptable. He glanced around the spaceship and asked, "Who are you?" A 3D projection appeared behind Clark. It was a middle-aged man in a gray robe, with a capital S symbol on his chest. "It would be wonderful to see you grow up, if only Lyra could see you too," the middle-aged man suddenly spoke. Clark, though he had some suspicions, asked, "Who are you, Carl?" "I'm your father. At least I'm his projection, his consciousness. My name is Jor-El," Jor-El's shadowy figure said with a hint of a smile. "So, Carl, is that my name?" Clark had heard the ship say I call him that when he launched the spaceship. He asked eagerly, "I have so many questions for you. Where am I from? Why did you leave me here?" Jor-El waved his hand, and particles in the air began to coalesce, suddenly forming the shape of a planet. "You come from Krypton, a planet countless times harsher than Earth's. Long ago, during the Age of Expansion, our race explored planet after planet, searching for a habitable one. This scout ship was one of the thousands that ventured into the void. We established outposts on other planets, using massive world engines to reshape the environment to our needs. For 100,000 years, our civilization has flourished, creating many miracles." As Jor-El spoke, the particles behind him continuously formed new patterns. But Jor-El suddenly paused mid-sentence. Clark frowned and asked, "So what happened next?" "Our civilization went astray. Scientists created a control system for artificial humans, abandoned our space exploration outposts, and began overexploiting natural resources. We used genetic modification to pre-program each child to fulfill a role: worker, warrior, leader, and so on. But your mother and I believe that this method of reproduction has cost Krypton something precious. Everyone on Earth knows what they lost. They lost their dreams. And what happens when you lose your dreams? The answer is salted fish. While pre-assigning roles to children before birth maximizes resource utilization, this also presents a tragic chasm. The children of workers will also be workers, the children of warriors will also serve on the battlefield, and the children of leaders will continue to be leaders for generations. Krypton abandoned its pursuit of space expansion, instead remaining in a so-called advanced civilization, repeating itself generation after generation. By that time, Kryptonian civilization had already been destroyed. Back then, we exhausted our natural resources, and our planet's core became unstable. Eventually, our military leader, General Zod, launched a coup, but it was too late. Your mother and I foresaw the danger. Cal, you're the first child born naturally on Krypton in centuries. Our first thought was to save your life." Clark, momentarily overwhelmed by Jor-El's story, asked, puzzled, "Then why didn't you come with me?" "We can't, Cal. No matter how much we long, no matter how much we love you, we, like General Zod, are failures of our world. Our fate is inextricably linked to Krypton's. You, a child of both Krypton and Earth, embody the essence of both worlds. You are the dream your mother and I strive to protect. You will guide the people of Earth, giving them ideals to strive for. They will strive to catch up behind you. They will stumble and fall, but in the end, they will fight alongside you under the sun. Ultimately, you will help them create a miracle. That is the meaning of this symbol of our House of El." After hearing his father's words, Clark suddenly thought of Leah, and he burst into laughter. "What's wrong, my son?" Jor-El asked. "I just remembered a friend," Clark said. Jor-El smiled kindly. "I'm glad you've made friends on Earth, but you might not be able to see them for a while. I still have a lot to teach you and guide you on how to fight. Are you willing to learn?" "I do. I'm a fast learner," Clark said without any pressure. "Oh, really? First, I'll teach you all the knowledge of the 28 known star systems on Krypton. Then, every day, you'll learn to apply this knowledge and strengthen your own powers." Jor-El turned and headed toward the ship. The warrior didn't forget to call Clark. "Now, come with me." Clark's face darkened when he heard he was going to learn about the 28 star systems. "You truly are my father." There are many versions of the Kryptonian setting, but this book follows the one in Man of Steel, where civilization goes astray after a great expansion. Also ask for a recommendation ticket. Chapter 19, Kryptonian Warriors. In the small town, Leah remembered exactly when Clark left. Almost every day, the Kents would ask about Clark's situation. Mr. Kent, I'm absolutely certain Clark is safe. No one in this world can threaten his life. Leah repeated this countless times. If he'd known the Kents doted on their son so much, he would have gone to the North Pole with Clark. Clark's adoptive mother, Aunt Martha, had lost all interest in farm work lately. She had lost a lot of weight and kept complaining, "Clark's still young, and he's been away for almost 2 months. What if he gets tricked by someone bad? What if he learns bad habits from others? I really don't know what I'll do." 2 months had passed since Clark left town for the North Pole. Clark will be an adult in a year. He can already handle many things on his own. Leah resisted the urge to run away. He knew Clark was safe. Over the past 2 months, Leah had noticed a rapid increase in his strength, and the only explanation for this was that the original owner of the Superman card, Clark Kent, was becoming increasingly powerful at an incredible rate. Even the original Purple Hero card showed signs of transforming into a gold legendary card. Although Kent's father was concerned for Clark's safety, he didn't show it. Instead, he comforted his wife, Martha, saying, "I believe in Clark, he'll be back soon." Up and saw something like a meteor falling to the earth. However, as if sensing something, it suddenly arced through the air and plummeted towards the Kent farm. "God, what is that? Is it a meteor?" Aunt Martha asked in astonishment, covering her mouth. Kent's father frowned. As he ran towards the house, he said, "Meteors don't change direction on their own. Martha, take Leah and get out of here." The moment the meteor appeared, Leah used his supervision to investigate. He discovered a spaceship within the flames, carrying a man and a woman, both armed with weapons far superior to Earth's technology. "Uncle Kent, Aunt Martha, get out of here immediately. This is beyond your control." Leah removed his glasses and his coat, revealing a custom-made elastic bodysuit from Metropolis a month earlier. Previously, Leah hadn't had much muscle mass, but after months of equipping the Superman card and Clark's increasing strength, Leah's body had undergone a dramatic transformation. It wasn't noticeable in his coat, but once it was removed, his perfectly defined muscular body was unmistakable. Boom! The meteor crashed onto the Kent farm, its massive shockwave instantly destroying the crops grown by the Kents. Fortunately, Leah stepped in front of them, shielding them from the impact. Leah strode forward, and the Kents, huddled together, followed him. As they approached, the three could clearly see that the crashed object was a spaceship. Just then, a hatch opened, and 2 figures clad in black armor emerged. "I sense the presence of a kindred spirit. You are Kal-El." A smaller figure stepped forward. Though her voice wasn't a language Leah recognized, it was surprisingly understandable. Could it be some kind of advanced alien technology? Leah didn't have time to delve into that kind of technology. He clenched his fists and said calmly, "As much as I want to admit it, I'm not the person you're looking for. Who are you, and what are you doing on Earth?" "I'm Flyo, Adjutant to General Zod of Kandor City. I've come to Earth following information from an outpost. We've detected the signal of Kal-El's spaceship nearby. If you're not Kal-El, then die." Before she finished speaking, Flyo threw a punch, landing with a whistling sound. Leah had been prepared. Seeing the opponent strike first, he immediately raised his left hand, firmly blocking the blow. Then, with a clenched right fist, he delivered a powerful punch to the opponent's face. Bang! With a resounding explosion, Flyo was sent flying hundreds of meters away. The burly man, who had been silent behind, now looked on with a look of delight. "Not bad, boy, you're quite good. Don't forget, we have 2 of you." The burly man was the Kryptonian who had come with Flyo, named Joel. He hadn't moved because it was his first time being exposed to the yellow sunlight, and he needed some time to adjust to the sudden surge of power. As he finished speaking, he lightly tapped his foot, and as if gravity had vanished, he leaped dozens of meters into the air. He then launched a punch at Leah, unleashing a powerful, almost sky-high attack reeling. It was a surprisingly even-matched encounter. According to Kryptonian tradition, the longer one is exposed to the yellow sunlight, the greater the power. Leah, after all, possessed only 55% of Superman's strength, and against the two Kryptonians who had just arrived on Earth, he could barely hold his own. Meanwhile, Flo, having been sent flying, leaped from the ground, practically flying in front of Leah. As she attacked, she demanded, "I don't care if you're Kal-El. Hand over the ship, and I'll kill you. Even if you get the ship, it's useless. What you want isn't inside." Leah mercilessly revealed a spoiler. In the mainstream storyline, Superman's father, Jor-El, had hidden a secret code containing the genetic code of every Kryptonian citizen within Clark's cells, essentially making Superman a walking codex of life. But Flo and Jor-El didn't believe Leah's words, completely mistaking them for a lie to trick them into giving up. So, they joined forces and attacked Leah, quickly defeating him. Ken's father took Martha to corner. He realized that Leah's fighting style was no ordinary match, but seeing Leah at a disadvantage, he felt a pity. "Martha, call the police." "Damn, who are these people?" Ken's father warned her. Martha hurried back inside, hunting everywhere, but the high-speed bullet impacted Flo's body with a resounding sound like an empty beverage bottle, deflecting with a sharp snap. "Damn it," Ken's father cursed. Flo slowly turned to look at Ken's father, then suddenly rushed forward. The next second, she was in front of him, grabbing him by the neck with one hand and effortlessly lifting him up. "Tell me, where is the ship? Or I'll kill everyone here." Leah, caught in a fierce battle with the two Kryptonians, suddenly remembered a powerful move he'd seen in anime. He raised his hands to the sky, gathering the votes from his readers, and then formed a condensed spirit bomb. "Everyone, for the sake of peace on Earth, please give us your votes." Chapter 20, Battle with the Kryptonians. Ken's father wasn't afraid of death. He'd even prepared for it the moment Martha ran into the house. "Go to hell. You'll never get what you want, that's a shame," Flo sneered, then raised her fist high, ready to smash Ken's father to pieces. Leah, watching this, was furious. He couldn't let Ken's father die. At least, he couldn't let him die before his eyes. Otherwise, Leah wouldn't be able to face Clark. "Asshole," Leah roared, charging at Flo at full speed. Then, at that moment, the burly Kryptonian Joel also darted to Flo's side, colliding with Leah like a tank at high speed. Boom! A shockwave erupted from the point of collision, spreading outward. They were both sent flying backwards, landing heavily on the ground. Flo gave Leah a cold look. Ignorant fellow, he was about to kill Ken's father. "Stop. What you're looking for is in the cellar of the warehouse." Unable to bear witness to her husband's murder, Martha revealed the location of Clark's ship, which had arrived on Earth. It was in the cellar. Of course, she didn't reveal the ship's location to betray Clark, but rather because she knew Clark had taken the ship's core, the key. And having heard Leah's conversation with him, it was clear that even if the ship fell into the hands of these two, there wouldn't be any problems. Martha consoled herself. Upon hearing Martha's words, Flo smiled triumphantly. "HMPH, you're not going to cry until your coffin falls." Faced with Zod's mission, Flo decisively let go of Ken's father. She looked in the direction Martha pointed, eager to find Clark's ship and claim the credit for it to General Zod. "I found it. It's the L family's ship." Flo leaped again, leaping over the cellar and slamming down. Boom! The wooden floorboards of the Kent residence proved no match for the Kryptonians' impact. Flo descended into the cellar, and Clark's ship appeared before her. "Found it." Flo eagerly took a few steps forward and single-handedly lifted the half-man-high ship. Remember, Ken's father and Martha had painstakingly lifted it onto the truck and brought it here. Leaving the cellar, Flo smiled as she glanced at the Kents, then strode towards their ship. At the same time, she said to her companions, "I'll give you 10 minutes to kill them all. If you exceed the time limit, I won't wait for you, because I want to dedicate this spaceship to the great General Zod." Her companion, Joel, was suffering from the burning of Leah's heat vision. Upon hearing Flo's words, he was furious. "Damn you, Flo. You didn't even come to help me. You can't even defeat a kid from a lowly planet, so you have no right to follow General Zod. You have 9 minutes left, so hurry up." With these words, Flo dragged Clark's spaceship into her own spaceship. Their spaceship was much larger than Clark's, so it would fit without any problem. As she returned to the spaceship and started the scheduled flight, she was obsessed with how General Zod would reward her after she handed the spaceship over. As Zod's adjutant, Flo's admiration for Zod was ingrained in her bones. Meanwhile, The one-on-one battle relieved Leah's stress, but he also realized that having only a superhero character card was far from enough. While the main card slot can only hold one card, the system has numerous secondary slots, allowing for multiple cards to be loaded simultaneously. The secondary slots aren't as effective as the main slots, but the sheer number of slots makes it a no-brainer. If he collected every superhero card and crammed them into them, then taking on 2 Kryptonians would be no problem. Bang! 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 The battle between the two raged on. Joel Raw was, after all, a trained Kryptonian warrior. His combat skills far surpassed Leah's. However, Leah wasn't without an advantage. At least for now, Joel Raw hadn't mastered his heat vision. While using his heat vision to contain his opponent, Leah swung his fists frantically, at breakneck speed. In a matter of seconds, the two exchanged dozens of blows. There the fight stretched from the Kent farm to the town streets. This wasn't Leah's intention, but rather the ferocious nature of the fight. A single punch could send the opponent flying hundreds of meters, sending them carelessly careening into the street. The streets of the small town were bustling with traffic when suddenly a burly man in black combat armor descended from the sky, smashing into a silver sedan and denting its roof. Immediately afterwards, Leah descended, pressing one hand against Joel's chest while his other hand smashed into him head. Boom, boom, boom. The ground trembled with each blow. The man's head smashed into the ground, shattering the concrete and sending debris flying. Oh my god. It's the Avengers. I haven't seen an Avenger in over a month. Who's he fighting? Whoever he's fighting, it's got to be the bad guys. Why isn't Superman here? Police car. His mouth twitched as he saw Leah beating up the Kryptonian warrior. He said to his partner, "Let's just pretend we didn't see anything, okay?" "Oh my god, these two aren't human, no way," his partner said bitterly. "We're police officers. Even if we can't help the Avengers, at least we can evacuate the crowd, okay? Okay. Evacuate the crowd," the fat officer said with a constipated look on his face. "This town is terrible. When I get home today, I'm going to ask for a transfer to Metropolis. I'd rather die jumping from here than spend another day in this town. I want Metropolis." As the police arrived to evacuate the crowd, Joel found an opportunity to fight back. He discovered that he could levitate and knock Leah away, then hovered in mid-air to fight him. After several exchanges, the street was shattered by the two men. Supporting police rushed in, but seeing the fight unfold, they were unable to intervene and could only provide fire support to Leah from a distance. However, it was useless. Joel flew close to the ground, holding Leah's shoulders and slamming him into a cafe. The people hiding inside screamed and ran, scattering like birds and beasts. However, when a girl walked past Leah and the Kryptonian Joel, their strength seemed to be instantly drained away, and they fell to the ground simultaneously. The contract status has been revised. Additional chapters will be put together this weekend, which means there will be 4 chapters this weekend. Chapter 21, Krypton Meteorite. Kryptonite. This is the effect of kryptonite. Leah couldn't think of anything else that could instantly weaken the indestructible Superman, except kryptonite. "Lana, wait," Leah weakly called out Lana's name. The girl passing by was Lana Blue. Her parents had died in the meteor shower that struck the town 10 years prior, so she wore a necklace made of meteorite in remembrance. It was this necklace that had depowered both Leah and the Kryptonian warrior Joel. Lana heard Leah's voice and turned in confusion, staring at Leah with horror. "Avenger, how do you know my name? What do you want from me?" Leah grumbled inwardly. She'd only changed her clothes and put on a mask, and this girl didn't even recognize her. After all, they'd almost had a late-night discussion and study session. "Ahem, Lana, the town is under threat. I need to borrow your necklace." Leah didn't have time to explain, she simply asked for it. After hearing Leah's request, Lana hesitated for a moment. Fortunately, the necklace wasn't valuable, and Leah's Avenger identity was relatively respectable, so Lana took it off her neck and handed it to Leah. Leah also deactivated his Superman card, and the kryptonite's influence instantly vanished. He took the kryptonite necklace from Lana, wrapped it around his wrist, and smiled at her. "Thank you, Lana. It's dangerous here. Get out of here." "Okay, thank you too, Mr. Avenger. I have a question. Do we know each other?" Emma finally caught on, and Leah suddenly felt relieved. But now was not the time to reveal his true identity to his innocent fans. He turned his serious gaze to the fallen Kryptonian warrior Joel and said, "It's dangerous here. Please get out of here. Leah then turned and stood in front of Lana, a heroic gesture. Leave the danger to me, leave the safety to everyone else. Be careful, Mr. Avenger, Lana said, and ran out of the cafe. As Leah approached, the Kryptonian warrior Joel felt his world spin. He stared intently at the necklace in Leah's hand and demanded, "What is this? Why is it making me so weak? It's a mineral from Krypton, idiot," Leah spoke as he punched Joel in the face. The kryptonite sliced through his skin like a blade through tofu. Bang! Joel's mouth was filled with blood, and several scratches appeared on his face. His eyes were filled with fear, and he stumbled back. "I don't believe it. Why aren't you affected by the kryptonite?" Until now, Joel had considered Leah a fellow race. Leah smiled and backhanded another punch. "I told you, I'm not Kal-El, nor am I a Kryptonian. I'm a pure-blooded Earthling. And I'm telling you, no, don't kill me. I'm General Zod's subordinate. If you kill me, General Zod will not let you go." Leah looked at him with an idiotic gaze. Finally, he'd brought in General Zod? But so what? General Zod, Superman's mortal enemy and a warmonger bent on transforming Earth into Krypton, unsurprisingly stood in opposition to all of humanity. He was obsessed with finding the Book of Life stolen by Jor-El, hence his frantic search for Clark and the Book of Life. If Zod were to acquire the Book of Life, he could use the world engine to transform Earth into Krypton. However, Earth's human population would be unable to adapt and perish. Zod, however, believed that only from ruin could new life be built. He would sacrifice not just Earth, but all life in the universe, to rebuild Kryptonian civilization. If he doesn't come to Earth, it's fine. But if Zod dares, I'll kill him too. Leah raised his fist high at the dying Kryptonian warrior Joel, then, with all his might, smashed it down. Wow! Joel spat out a mouthful of blood, a large section of his chest collapsing. As his heart stopped beating, his eyes gradually lost their life force. Having killed a Kryptonian, Leah surveyed the cafe. Although the place was battered and shattered, Leah found a lead box hidden among the rubble of the counter. He had a feeling the necklace might be useful, considering there was a Kryptonian in town. He placed the necklace in a lead box, freeing himself from the effects of the kryptonite, and equipped himself with a Superman card. With another Kryptonian outside, Leah was no match for him in a one-on-one fight, especially with a kryptonite in hand. Leah walked out of the cafe, bumping into his uncle, Sheriff James, who also spotted Leah. Their eyes met, and James angrily shouted at Leah, "Leah, I know you're one of the Avengers. Don't you want to explain to me what's going on? The world is in danger, don't you understand?" "I don't have time to explain right now," Leah said nothing more, instantly using super speed to escape the town. The sight of the shattered streets was horrifying, and he could only mentally vow to support his hometown when he had money. Another roar echoed from the sky, and Leah looked in the direction of the sound. It was the ship piloted by Flara. She'd said 10 minutes? 10 minutes. Could these Kryptonian warriors really abandon their companions so easily? Or, as the saying goes, if the top beam is crooked, the bottom beam will be crooked. Under Zod's iron-blooded rule, these warriors only care about two kinds of people, those who can still fight, and those who are useless. Useless people can be discarded with ease, like a broken item. Damn it, do you really think Earth is something you can come and go as you please? Leah increased his speed again, chasing the enemy ship. It was like someone showing up at your house, taking something, and then walking away carelessly. As the saying goes, you can tolerate your uncle, but you can't tolerate your aunt. Leah wanted to shout something like anyone who offends Earth will be punished, no matter how far away, but he was alone within a few hundred meters, and shouting it out would sound childish. So he held his breath and stomped his feet hard on the ground. With a loud bang, the ground cracked, and Leah, using the recoil force, suddenly flew out, soaring straight up, rushing towards Flao's ship. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, Feeling Like I Can Soar to Heaven. Leah's figure soared rapidly into the air. At that moment, gravity seemed almost intangible. The air current brushed Leah's cheek like a gentle hand, bringing him a sense of comfort. But just as he was about to touch Flao's spaceship, the high-altitude wind waves affected Leah's body. Gravity seemed to have retaken Leah and pulled him down. Shit. Hold on, hold on. I have to believe I can fly. I can fly for a while. At this moment, Leo was completely seized by gravity, his body in an uncontrollable free fall, or rather, a parabola. Oh my god, it's so high, plummeting from thousands of meters in the air, like a miniature meteor. Leo's body crashed into a mountain peak. However, the fragile mountain was unable to stop his fall. He penetrated directly through the peak and crashed all the way to the ground. The earth shook with a thud. Simultaneously, the mountain ahead, like a fruit pierced by a bullet, collapsed from the top, disintegrating into countless rubble that rolled down like a mudslide. Chunks of rock tumbled down, and Leo climbed out of the rubble pit. As he watched Flao's spaceship drift away, dwindle into a tiny speck, his temper flared. I really don't believe it today. Whether Superman has unlocked the ability to fly or not, I don't care. Since I have his ability, I should be able to fly. Leo dropped to one knee, mimicking the start of a long-distance runner. He felt the sun, the air, the lid of Newton's coffin. Everything. The surrounding debris began to ripple, and some even slowly floated into the air, as if swept by a current of air, gradually swirling around him. With a roar, Leo's body suddenly rose from the ground. It was unclear whether he had jumped or flown into the air. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared across the ground. Leo soared into the sky, rapidly soaring into the air, drawing ever closer to Flao's spaceship. The feeling of flying is so fucking awesome. As his body soared higher and higher, the air around him grew thinner, but for Leo, this was no problem. From 20,000 meters, the entire Earth was in full view, Kansas becoming a tiny piece. However, Leo had no time to admire the view from above. He flew to Flao's spaceship and grabbed like a hammer striking a bell. Leo exerted force, and Flao's spaceship gradually slowed down. Leo took advantage of the momentum, aimed at the ship's engine, and slammed into it. With a loud boom, Leo was completely slammed into the ship's engine. Unlike any technology on Earth, the Kryptonian ship's engine was more like a nuclear fusion reaction. Leo had no idea how it worked. He simply rushed into the engine and was immediately seared by the intense heat, causing even his steely skin to sting. A second later, Leo rushed out. Shame. All my clothes are burned. Leo scratched his head. If he just rushed in to fight Fulla, would she misunderstand him? Fortunately, Leo spotted spare clothing in the crew cabin and immediately donned it. Unlike the combat armor worn by Kryptonian warriors, this suit resembled Superman's bodysuit, only all black. Fulla was operating the ship from the control room. However, Leo's engine damage prevented her from hyperspace warping, meaning she wouldn't be able to reach General Zod's compound anytime soon. No. She frantically checked the ship's data, attempting to warp through other means, but her efforts were futile. At that moment, Leo appeared behind Flao. Her rage reaching its peak. You ruined my plan. I'm going to kill you. Oh, really? I didn't intend for you to escape alive anyway. A fight erupted, and the two men vanished simultaneously. The next second, they were in each other's path. Leo swung her fists, striking Flao in the face. Flao, weaker than her, refused to engage her head-on, instead employing various combat techniques. While the ancient saying one force conquers 10 skills holds true, that applies only to situations where one's strength far surpasses the other's. While Leo's strength was slightly greater than Flao's, it was only slightly, making her opponent's combat skills all the more crucial at this moment. After this is over, I'm going to learn a few moves. I can go find Green Arrow or Batman. They're both masters of combat. The spaceship halted its ascent, trembling for a moment before plummeting to the ground. Flao suddenly lost her balance. Despite having gained extraordinary powers from the yellow sun's rays, she couldn't fly. What? You can't fly? Leo watched Flao tumbling from the crashing spaceship, finding it somewhat amusing. She was a true Kryptonian, while he was a mere novice. And yet, the novice could fly, while the true Kryptonian couldn't. Leo actually felt there was a flaw in the Kryptonian setting. The main point was that while Kryptonians knew they would gain extraordinary powers when exposed to yellow sun, they rarely visited planets like Earth with yellow suns. A plausible explanation was that during the Age of Expansion, a group of Kryptonians did indeed settle on Earth-like planets and leave behind powerful descendants. This marked the beginning of the Age of Mythology. As the Kryptonian bloodline gradually thinned, the mythical figures came to an end. Krypton itself, due to technological missteps, abandoned cosmic expansion and focused on artificial human control systems, thus restricting its entire race, akin to a closed-off planet, gradually heading towards extinction. Even if I don't go back, General Zod has the address of this planet. He'll come looking for you. Then you'll die, and everyone on this planet will die. Krypton will be reborn, Flarao shouted, her expression the epitome of a brainwashed fanatic. Restoring one's own civilization is not wrong in itself, but if it means sacrificing another, it's no different from banditry. I sympathize with Krypton's plight, but you shouldn't attack Earth. With that, Lee slowly ascended into the air, then accelerated rapidly, slamming into Flarao. The ship's walls shattered, and Flarao was carried toward the ground by Lee. She struggled several times to break free from Lee's control, but to no avail. Like shooting stars, the two of them plummeted from the sky, passing through a vast expanse of dark clouds before suddenly glimpsing light. Flarao crash-landed on an island, the ground rumbling and trembling. Leah, at 3,000 meters in the air, began to slow down, then hovered in midair, looking down at the Kryptonian warrior Flarao, who lay in a deep pit on the ground. The island was picturesque, with clear waters and mountains. A gentle breeze whipped up, causing Leah's cape to flutter in the wind, a truly impressive sight. Important, very important P.S., an island shrouded in dark clouds, only to be illuminated once you pass through it. I'm sure you've already guessed it. Yes, this is Paradise Island. Remember the ending of Chapter 2? The book's most telling parallel universe moment, Wonder Woman, or Diana, is still on Paradise Island. In the movie, Steve Trevor didn't bring Diana out. So, when Diana appears in the next chapter, if you're going to criticize her, please be gentle. Thank you. Chapter 23, Paradise Island? A moment later, the sound of horse hooves suddenly rang out from the distance on the island. Leah slowly landed on a rock and looked out. From the island's jungle, a group of female cavalrymen emerged. Clad in armor resembling ancient Greek armor and armed with bows and arrows, they galloped towards Leah and Flarao. Oh my god, how could the style change so suddenly? Wait, could they be Amazons? Leah's heart trembled. As a fan of American comics, he naturally knew that on Earth in the DC universe, there existed a place similar to the Kingdom of Women, home to the Amazons of Paradise Island. Flarao had already risen from the pit, tumbling down and landing around Leah and Flarao, encircling them. Intruders, this is not the place for you, the voice came from a woman on horseback. She looked to be in her 30s, clad in regal military attire, exuding an imposing presence. Leah, judging by her attire, suspected she was the leader of the Amazons, or rather, their queen. Given the Amazons' immortality on Paradise Island, her age couldn't be more than 30, with a 0 after it. Your Highness, I have no intention of invading your territory, but, Leah tried to explain, but Flarao showed no regard for these uncivilized primitives. With a single stomp, she charged forward at breakneck speed, clenching her right fist and swung it fiercely in front of her. A gust of air seemed to materialize, sending the Amazon warriors flying. Fortunately, the Amazon's strength far surpassed that of mortals, so Flareo's blow only sustained minor injuries, not outright deaths. Flareo's actions completely ignited a war between the two sides, no, 3 sides. The Amazon Queen's eyes were icy. She drew her sword from her waist, brandished it, and roared, "Attack! Eliminate the invaders, kill!" The surrounding Amazon warriors all drew their weapons, some brandishing swords, some drawing bows, and instantly attacked Flarao and Leah. Hey, I'm not on her side, Leah, feeling a headache, tried to explain again. But the Amazon warriors refused to listen. Several arrows flew at him, most of them aimed at Flarao, who had already attacked, while a single arrow was aimed at Leah's heart. Flarao launched a powerful blow, knocking all the Amazon warriors surrounding her to the ground. She charged towards the sea, her intention clear, to salvage the sunken ship. After all, Clark's ship was inside. And in her opinion, Clark's ship contained the Book of Life that Zod wanted, and that was the most important thing. Leah stood still. The arrow pierced the air and suddenly struck Leah in the heart. With a clang, the once invincible arrow bent as if struck by a steel plate. How is this possible? Yaz's gaze passed through the crowd and caught sight of the woman who had shot the arrow at him. She still held her bow, her raven hair dancing in the wind, and she exuded the heroic aura of a Valkyrie. Her well-trained figure, with its near-perfect curves, accentuated by her Amazonian rag skirt and higher riding boots, gave her an inherently exotic air and captivating charm. In that instant, Leah struggled to think about how he would react to if such a beautiful woman shot him with an arrow. Never mind. Now wasn't the time to argue with her, he could deal with it later. I repeat, I'm not your enemy. That woman is. Leah pointed at Furo, who had already plunged into the sea. The warriors behind him stared blankly at the surface. Leah knew she was diving into the water to retrieve her ship knocked away. Leah grasped the blade with his hands, kneading it like a ball of plasticine, shaping it into a lump of iron. How did he do that? Leah's actions overturned the Amazon's understanding. In their worldview, even gods could be wounded. The Amazon Queen's face was utterly dismal, but she managed to overpower Leah and demanded, "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" "My name is Leah Rogers. I'm sorry to have intruded upon your territory, but that woman and I are not in league. Let me put it this way, she was sent by a demon, and their goal is to conquer the world." Leah tried to describe her situation in terms the Amazons could understand. The Queen frowned. "What you say is truly unbelievable. We cannot believe it. I don't need your belief, just stay out of my way," Leah said. Suddenly, a large number of bubbles billowed from the sea surface, and then a spaceship, over 20 meters long, emerged. As it cleared the surface, saw it was the black armored woman from before, forcibly lifting it above her head and stepping ashore. Boom. Flo dropped the spaceship to the ground. 1,000 Kydian coins. This is the first tip I've ever received, and I'm very happy. Chapter 24, Diana. Leah stared at Flo, who was wiping the seawater off her face, with a half-smile. "Thank you for helping me salvage the spaceship," he said. "If you surrender now, I might consider not killing you." "Not killing me? With all due respect, your fighting skills are abysmal, and I've been trained in combat since birth. I have 100 ways to kill you, and all of you." Flo moved her neck, making a crackling sound like frying beans. She glanced around with a cold gaze, as if looking at a group of dead bodies. Leah shrugged and pulled a lead box from his pocket. "I only have one way to defeat you, but it's enough." He used his mind to unequip the Superman card and opened the box, revealing a green necklace. Flo's expression was initially mocking, but the next moment, she felt her strength drain away. Without even the strength to stand, she collapsed to the ground. What did you do to me? My powers are gone." "What did you do?" "As a Kryptonian, dying from kryptonite is a fitting death, isn't it?" Lee put the necklace around Flareo's neck with him. Flareo and the others were merely Zod's minions. If 2 of them died on Earth, Zod would surely descend upon Earth himself, bringing his Kryptonian army with him. If Clark could return in time, everything would be fine, but who could say for sure? What if in this alternate universe, Clark couldn't make it? Zod killed Clark's parents, Superman turned evil, and established a Superman regime. Or perhaps, in this alternate universe, Zod triumphed and rebuilt Kryptonian civilization on Earth. There are so many parallel universes in American comics, and Lee knew he couldn't assume the next development would happen. Fortunately, he still had kryptonite. If he made some preparations early, he could still manage even if Clark didn't arrive in time. "Diana, let's not get involved. This gentleman will handle it himself." The Amazon Queen rode forward. She knew she had a responsibility to her entire tribe, so she would do her best to avoid getting involved in the conflict. However, the girl shook her head and stubbornly argued, "Look at this woman. She can lift 100 tons with ease. Can you imagine the power of the demon she summoned? This must be Ares. Only he can provoke war and put the world in danger." "Diana?" Lee looked at the girl before him with a strange look. "Your name is Diana? Daughter of Hippolyta?" Everyone was stunned at the words. Diana and the Queen's expressions were particularly solemn. "Stranger, how do you know my name and my daughter's name?" Hippolyta, the Amazon Queen, stared at Leah in confusion, demanding. As reclusive Amazons, their names were practically unknown to outsiders. Leah's mind was a bit confused, and she didn't answer Hippolyta's question. Instead, she looked directly at Diana. "Woman?" Leah felt this world was truly bizarre. She had chased a Kryptonian spaceship out of the ozone layer, then plummeted to the surface and landed on Theme Island. Landing on Theme Island wasn't the most outrageous thing. The most outrageous thing was that Diana, the future Wonder Woman, shot Leah in the chest. In the mainstream storyline, Diana didn't leave Theme Island during World War I, but followed an Air Force officer named Steve Trevor out of Theme Island and fought in World War I. Why was this world's Diana still on Theme Island? Did she survive World War I and return? Or did she never participate in this world's war at all? Lear leaned more towards the latter, as he hadn't yet sensed any signs of Diana's awakening powers. As the daughter of Zeus, Diana possessed demigod blood, making her an incredibly powerful female superhero. This doesn't make sense. Lear found it baffling, but on second thought, he felt relieved. All the absurdities could be explained by the theory of parallel universes. Compared to Captain America as Hydra, the evil Superman of Injustice, and Wonder Woman who hadn't left Themyscira, there seemed little to worry about. Seeing Lear's gaze, Diana waved her hand before him, then placed her hands on her hips and said, "Now it's your turn to tell me why you know my name." Lear rubbed his temple. Now he had to think carefully about how to explain this to Diana. After all, this was a golden opportunity to unlock Diana's character card. Because I've received an oracle, Diana, the world is about to face catastrophe. The god of war, Ares, has bewitched a powerful demon, General Zod, who'll descend upon Earth in the near future to annihilate all of humanity. The key to preventing this apocalypse lies with a girl named Diana, you. This is your destiny to save this world, Queen. Hippolyta rolled her eyes at Lear's ramblings, but the young and naive Diana was thrilled and her blood boiled with passion. Is what you say true? Is this my destiny? Diana immediately looked at her mother and said seriously, "Mother, do you remember the story you told me when I was little? One day, Ares will return to fulfill his destiny, and the entire world will be plunged into catastrophe." That was just a bedtime story. The age of the gods is over. Ares will not return. Queen Hippolyta put her hand to her forehead, regretting the myth she had told Diana. They had lived on Paradise Island for hundreds of years, and all the gods had long since vanished. The age of the gods was over. But Diana refused to accept this. She had been waiting for this day since she was a child. "But mother, you told me that the purpose of our existence as Amazons is to stop a god of war. As Amazons, this is our responsibility." Queen Hippolyta exhaled heavily and said angrily, "Diana, you can't just believe what anyone says. We don't even know if what he says is true." "Excuse me, if you want to know the truth, you can interrogate this servant of the devil." Leah interrupted the quarrel between Diana and her daughter, pointing at the almost unconscious Flato on the ground. Thanks to Kadian Reader Hutuwansu and Chuangshi Reader Gujimi for their rewards. Thank you very much. Chapter 25, Another Purple Card. In Paradise Island, in the main hall of the Amazon Castle, Diana bound Flaro with a lasso of truth. She explained to Leah, "This is called the lasso of truth. Anyone bound by it will reveal their truest thoughts." Wow. This is a powerful weapon, Leah smiled at Diana. Although he already knew what the golden, glowing ropes were, his slightly improved emotional intelligence meant he didn't dwell on the question. Queen Hippolyta, accompanied by a group of Amazon warriors, spoke first, demanding the truth from Flaro. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" Although Flaro was reluctant to answer Queen Hippolyta, the lasso of truth's power compelled her to reveal the truth, especially since Flaro was weakened by kryptonite and unable to resist its power. "My name is Flaro, and I'm here on General Zod's orders, to find the Book of Life." "What is the Book of Life?" Diana asked curiously. Flaro found herself unable to resist the power of the lasso of truth and gave up. "The object that can revive our race should be within my ship. I must deliver it to General Zod." This surprised the Amazons present, for to them, the idea of reviving one's own race didn't sound so bad. Leah, understanding their thoughts, immediately asked, "Where will General Zod revive his race?" "Planet. Its astronomical conditions and other factors are excellent. Even more remarkable, Earth is constantly under the sun, allowing us Kryptonians to possess extraordinary abilities here," Flato replied. "If you rebuild your race on Earth, what will become of Earthlings?" Leah continued. Although he already knew the answer, he still needed to let Diana hear it for herself. "We will transform Earth's environment into something resembling Krypton. All life on Earth will perish, and our race will grow even more powerful. General Zod will then lead us into another era of expansion, and the entire universe will be at our feet." Flaro's breath was utterly weakened. As she uttered her last few words, she passed out from the kryptonite. Diana and the others were momentarily overwhelmed. They, the Amazons, spoke hundreds of languages, yet they were so out of touch with the times that they knew nothing about Earth, the universe, or even astronomy. Leah spent some time explaining the situation. "Everyone on Earth will die, and they will wage endless war across the universe." Diana, with an expression that said, "I already know everything," looked at her mother and said, "It's Ares. Only he could do such a thing, unleashing an endless war that would destroy billions. I must stop him. Queen Hippolyta sat back on her throne and rubbed her face fiercely, unable to accept the truth. Even if what she says is true, Diana, I think we need to discuss this. Let's end this for today. Mr. Li Yang, this demon servant is in your hands. Diana will escort you out of here. Before she had finished her words, Queen Hippolyta led the elders out of the hall. They had experienced a long period of peace and had a deep aversion to war. Mother, we need to do something. We can't just sit back and watch. Diana couldn't understand why her mother could still sit still. She wanted to don her armor and fight General Zod for 300 rounds. It must be said that Diana, still mentally immature at this point, possessed a stubborn, almost childish air. However, this quality, far from being annoying, only made people appreciate her innocence, kindness, warmth, and other wonderful qualities even more. Queen Hippolyta led the elders out of the hall, leaving Diana dejected. Why are they so indifferent? Isn't protecting this world our sacred duty as Amazons? Diana, you can't blame your mother. She's the queen of the Amazons, and she has a duty to protect her people. Leah stepped forward to offer Diana, I must warn you that the road ahead will be fraught with danger. Are you ready? I've always been ready, Mr. Li Yang. Whether my mother agrees or not, I will stop Zod and Ares. I hope to be with you, Diana said firmly. Yes, on behalf of all the members of the Justice League, I welcome you, Princess Diana. Li Yang extended his hand. He wanted to shake Diana's hand as a formal invitation, but Diana, though unfamiliar with a proper handshake, followed suit, extending both hands and taking Lia's in hers. Diana excitedly exclaimed, Thank you very much, Mr. Li Yang. The Justice League sounds so cool. Is it an organization? Like the League of the Gods of Justice, Diana acted like a little girl receiving flowers, her every smile and frown making Lia's heart race. Even more surprising, however, was the system notification in his mind. Ding, friendship level raised to friendly. Diana character card unlocked. The next second, a burst of purple light erupted from Lia's consciousness. Another purple hero card. He quickly entered his consciousness to check, and sure enough, a purple card with Diana's portrait appeared on the system interface. Purple card, Diana, Amazon Princess, race, Amazon, demigod primary card effects, super strength, super speed, flight, unlocked, etc. Additional notes, a battle-hardened Amazon warrior of demigod descent, possessing immense potential, card rank increases with personal growth, as the daughter of Zeus, Diana, half Amazon, half god, possesses abilities that, while not as powerful as Superman's, are not significantly inferior. In some cases, Leah can even use her as a primary card. Thanks to Kydian Reader I Want to Be the Pirate King for his 600 Kydian coins reward, and to Chuangshi Reader Zionrin for his 300 book coins reward. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.